Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, welcome to the webinar on Future Ready University in 90 Days. This is a live webinar brought to you by Lithan, supported by our panel of distinguished speakers from international universities and EdTech industry leaders. The speakers will be discussing about policy and the education landscape, emerging trend and readiness, transformation and technology, as well as case studies and plans to a future-ready university through this very challenging time. The speakers we have lined up for you today are Mr. Leslie Loh. Leslie is the CEO and founder of Lithan, who is also the host of the event today. Professor Anil, Chairman of All India Council for Technical Education. Professor Claire Ozan, Vice Provost from the University of Roehampton, United Kingdom. Dr. Lily Chan, Chief Executive and Vice Chancellor of Wawasan Open University of Malaysia. Ms. Sandy Darmowinoto, Vice Rector from the President University of Indonesia. Mr. Bharat Agrawal, President of the Vishwakarma University of India. Mr. Yang Lambrat, CEO and founder of Epitome Global. Last but not least, Mr. Giri Dawanayak, CEO and founder of Sambash. So let me start with a little bit of housekeeping before we start. Please note that all the participants will be muted by default through the system. So you are encouraged to send us your questions in advance and specify which speaker your questions should be directed to. We will try our best to raise it during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. You can find the Q&A function that is located at the top right-hand side of a WebEx browser or at the bottom of your WebEx message box. So without much ado, let me introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Leslie Loh. Leslie founded System Access as a one-man technology startup after graduation, and he had grew the business into a publicly listed global enterprise until it was acquired by a leading global financial services software provider in year 2006. So Leslie then founded Red Dot Ventures in 2012 to nurture and incubate tech startups in Singapore and around the region. It has to date that he invested in over 40 startups across a diverse sector and has since achieved multiple investment exits for his investment. In year 2016, Leslie became the CEO of Lithan, one of his investee companies, to accelerate its transformational journey to disrupt the adult education sector with skill-based blended learning pedagogies and innovative business models. So Leslie has selected the overall winner. Leslie was also selected as the overall winner of Singapore's ASME Rotary Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 1998 and received the National Youth Award for Entrepreneurship in year 1999. In year 2006, he was awarded the Person of the Year Award, especially in the IT Leader Award category by the Singapore Computer Society. Leslie has also served as a board and advisory panel member of various Singapore government agencies, including the Infocom Development Authority, the Spring Singapore, the Small Medium Enterprise Development Agency, IP Academy, National Research Foundation, Workforce Development Agency, Ministry of Education, to assist in charting the nation's economic strategies, Infocom Manpower Development, Small Medium Enterprise and Startup Development, as well as Adult Education Development for the small medium enterprises in Singapore. Now, without much ado, it is my pleasure to hand over the control to Leslie to start his presentation. Leslie, thanks.
Welcome. I'm glad to see many of you here. So my session is going to talk about how you potentially can future-ready your university in 19 days in a post-COVID digital economy. In way large or small, our lives have been changed by digital technology. The speed of change has been unprecedented, and the transformation has been exponential. By some estimates, change today is happening 10 times faster and 300 times the scale of the first industrial revolution. The change is so momentous that it is referred today as the Fourth Industrial Revolution. It took 75 years for the telephone to reach 50 million users. However, it has taken Pokemon Go only 19 days to reach the same number of users. The tremendous speed of change could not have been driven by any specific technology. It's due to emergence of multiple digital technology, which is stacking on top of another to create tsunami of innovation that will redefine the way we live, the way we work and learn. This tsunami is huge, and no industry will be spared. If you stand still, you will be crushed. Let's look at this survey from Gartner. All industry will face disruption ranging from 63% for the highly physical sector, such as construction industry, to 88% for financial services sector, where product can be easily sold and delivered via the digital channel. Education is ranked second, where 86% of the sector could face disruption. It could be a blessing or a curse, depending on how you react to this change. Pure play digital disruptor, including Coursera and Udacity, will be breathing down our neck with their almost free e-learning offering. If we do not do something to fight back, they will just take our lunch, but also our dinner. There is a skill shift given this digital revolution. And with COVID-19, the change will accelerate. How would the COVID-19 outbreak affect this digital transformation? The COVID-19 outbreak since January have made us readjust our life in a way most of us never imagined. For those who are fortunate to still have a job, home is now office and doubles as a classroom for those with children. In Singapore, COVID-19 has advanced digital transformation effort over the last 8 weeks, equivalent to what has been achieved with the multi-billion-dollar Smart Nation initiative over the last 5 years. And digital divide has now crossed the chasm, with everyone shifting to working and learning online. Access and ability to work online has become a must, and those who are unable to connect and work online will fall behind economically. If advances in technology are the catalyst for the current digital transformation, COVID-19 has given that final push for it to cross the line where it has become a must-do for businesses to survive in the post-COVID economy. This particular statistic, this chart, reflects the way that skill will change in the digital economy. In 10 years' time, most work you would need technology skill. In fact, half of the hours that you spend on your job would require technology skill. That's given, as we all know. But it's more than just technology skill that will increase in importance in the new digital economy. It also includes skill, such as social and emotional skill, innovation skill, entrepreneurship skill. These are 21st century soft skills that would be required to augment technology skill to be involved in creating value rather than add value. The future workplace would look very different. For the first time, we have 5 generations of workers working in one place, from the baby boomer to the Gen Z, the millennial, and although they are very, very different, but they would have to work together. But with the amounts of percentage of millennia in the workforce, the workplace would be very different because millennia and Gen Z work very differently. They see things differently. And clearly, technology would continue to advance. And robots already make many jobs obsolete. And it will get even smarter. And it will take over many jobs. Everything will be on demand. Everything can be shared, as you have already experienced. How you take a cab, how you study, and it all has changed. With COVID-19, when we sell something or deliver something, the channel that we use would likely be digital. There's no other choice. In the digital economy, you need differentiation. Innovation rule. It's only through innovation that you could stay competitive. The market is changing. There are disruption of intermediary. Consumer is rising. And clearly, this would require more direct connection between the product manufacturer and the consumer. Is education industry able to keep up with this change? And conventional education, we all know, has issues. Fundamentally, there are two issues which we all are quite familiar with: poor outcome and low return on investment. It's poor outcome because a lot of our focus is about delivering knowledge. And generally, it's far from the minds of education provider to deliver tangible outcome, an individual or a business need. In the new digital economy, the consumer, the learner, the enterprises is looking at solution, an outcome, a job, a business capability. Training is only a part of that journey. So how do we create solutions that deliver that outcome for them? Low return on investment. The tuition fee is not the most expensive part of the investment. What is really expensive is really that opportunity cost. Can you imagine? You go to school for 4 years and you are not working a single day during that 4 years. It's the high opportunity cost for not working that is making it very expensive. And I think there are solutions to solving that problem. In Asia, there's been a transformation. And over the last 5 to 6 years, various countries across the region is changing. And that change is not necessarily to solve the learning mode issue. I think that's only one of the issues. The main issue that I outlined is actually the skill issue, the work readiness issue. And learning mode, how we deliver it, whether online or offline, is only a medium on which that we solve this problem. If we just solve the problem of delivering mode, it would not be good enough. And many countries recognize that. Many seen how successful the Swiss and the German model has been in terms of their apprentice type of system, where they really deliver work-ready graduates before they even finish their school. So Asia likewise has been undergoing that transformation. Singapore is probably first out of the block with what they call the Skill Future Initiative. It's a $15 billion initiative when it was launched to essentially integrate applied learning within the entire education system. From the very young primary school, they now learn about design thinking, coding, and that will be integrated across the board. Instead of a 6-month internship that the poly the student have to go through a 3 months. Now it's essentially can be as long as a year. Singapore, since 2016, across the board, applied learning implementation has been changing the landscape in Singapore. Malaysia made an announcement in 2018, a 4.9 billion Malaysian ringgit announcement with a Tibet master plan to transform, to move toward using the competency, the applied learning framework. And in 2019, China essentially designated $15 billion to transform their traditional academic university to become University of Applied Sciences. And many more countries, which I have not stated here, and we would have the privilege for our academia speaker to actually share the type of applied learning transformation that is happening across Asia. Clearly, the industry knows that, and that transformation is going on. In Singapore, in 2015, Singapore launched what you call the Future Economy Committee. The committee meant to transform Singapore to become a smart nation. And there are 23 sectors that would be given a prescription of how businesses should change and what type of skill and workforce jobs that they should deliver. And education sector is obviously one of it. And so in Lithan, at that time, was just an education, SME education provider in Singapore. In fact, all this disruption that we are getting is, we were on the same boat. Our traditional business was threatened when digital education business such as Coursera and Udacity, General Assembly, started to encroach in our business. These digital learning startups were extremely well funded, having raised several hundred millions of dollars. Lithan was then only a conventional SME offering classroom-oriented adult education program in Singapore. We are fortunate that Singapore launched the Skill Future Initiative and the Future Economy Initiative to transform our nation. I was personally appointed by Skill Future Singapore, which is an agency that mandated to come up with a blueprint to support the transformation of the education sector, to co-chair a committee. The committee task was how we can transform our conventional classroom-oriented training, how we can change the fundamental of education business so that we can scale and grow in the new digital economy. And I was the co-chair. 18 months later, we released the sector transformation plan called TAESTP, which subsequently became part of the training and adult education industry transformation map in Singapore. You could go to the internet, you could pick up the industry transformation map for Singapore, and you will see many of the features outlined in the transformation map is what we implemented in our solution. With the pool of multi-billion dollars investment from our government, the push from global digital education disruptor, and the need to eat our own dog food, given that we have created the plan, Lithan took the transformation prescription from the committee, allocate $10 million, and implement it wholesale end-to-end, started in 2015. And the plan talked about several major trends that we're supposed to solve the issue. We need to leverage on technology so that learning can be more effective. We need to deliver learning that meet business outcome. That's really the key fundamental needs for the outcome that we need to deliver. Learning that delivers tangible business outcome. For individual, it's about a career induction, not just training. For businesses, it's about digital transformation for the businesses as the outcome for the training. And a lot of this training would likely have to happen at the workplace. And clearly, the educator in Singapore would correspondingly need to be transformed to be able to take on that role as an enabler to support the different ways of teaching, different ways of delivering education services. So I would like to share with you our transformation plan, and we took a holistic approach in that transformation plan. And there were 3 imperatives in our transformation plan. Firstly, we needed to digitalize learning that deliver career and business outcome. Secondly, we need to ensure that we have a connected campus that support online to offline engagement, that deliver a work to learn journey. I'll elaborate a little bit more. The new business model, the connected workplace campuses, would need to be supported by an agile ecosystem that enable business scalability for the business. So I'll attempt to go into each of those imperatives and share our experience on what we have done. So our business model can be best illustrated by this particular methodology created by Dublin, which was adopted by Deloitte. And there's a book behind this. It's called 10 Types of Innovation. The 10 Types of Innovation essentially said, today you cannot be competitive as a business unless you are able to deliver multiple innovation. A single innovation unlikely is enough for you to compete and differentiate. So typically business have 10 areas within the company that they can innovate. The core of their business got to be their offering, their core offering. With the right offering, they need to deliver the seamless experience that businesses or individuals need, their customer need. And to enable that to scale, they must have the configuration, the structure, the process, the finance in order to deliver it in scale. So what did Lithan do in terms of creating that product? So our view is that we really can't be a pure play. We can't be a Coursera, right? We are a physical, traditional, face-to-face delivery training provider, like many of you. But we really can't go the other side. And same like if you are a retail business today, you can't possibly go out there and say you want to compete with Amazon. So we have to go online to offline. It's really a question about how much of this online component that we can digitize, how much of this offline component within that value chain of business that we can digitalize. And the more you can do, the probably more disruptive your offering can be. But we believe it got to be a mix. Because the Coursera, the Udemy, didn't do justice either on their pure play delivery. We all know completion rate has been extremely low at 3%. And we have to have a much higher completion rate, much better outcome. There lies the need to continue to have that physical interaction as well as the online interaction. So it needs to be an online to offline business. And the first strategy that will be very critical for any businesses, certainly for Lithan, was that how can we actually deliver that solution that individual and customer need? I spoke about individual look for career induction, enterprises look for digital transformation. And we can't just deliver training to do that. So we need to bundle multiple products to do that. And you need to have multiple innovation that deliver that disruptive offering. I think as a traditional business, we all have certain constraints, particularly the physical constraint. We have to find a way to remove that physical constraint in whatever that we do, whether it be selling, delivering, and teaching. And so that's fundamentally how you can digitize your product and services. And all businesses, including university, and university clearly is more of that than most others, particularly academic university. They need to own the resources. They need to have building. They need to have their own full-time lecturer. But the new world doesn't need that. I think universities need to be more agile. They need to be able to outsource where they can. So on-demand resources is going to be a key part of that strategy. So we talk about blended learning. We were Coursera, the Udemy. It's about massification of education. It's free, but it can be delivered to 1 million people. Face-to-face, traditional education is about direct, smaller scale. I think we need to deliver mass customization for learning. To do that, technology can help you to massify the delivery, but it cannot help you to personalize that journey. So therefore, you must have combination of digitalization using technology, as well as innovative pedagogy that augment the technology that deliver mass customization. And mass customization by corporate collaborative learning. So this is a transformation map of which the committee that I co-chair came up with. There are various pieces. This is just one of the pieces about innovation. Business innovation, we need to integrate training with business solutioning or consulting or mentoring so that we can deliver tangible solution, business outcome, business performance, industry transformation. We need to have pedagogy that essentially are able to deliver this outcome that's effective. So in short, actually, the pedagogy is a blended learning pedagogy, work-based learning, mentor-led delivery, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So as I said, we adopt the blueprint wholesale in our delivery. So our solution is called Competency Learning as a Service. It's an on-demand learning and mentoring platform. There are essentially 3 fundamental principles to our design. First, the starting point would always be it needs to be relevant. It needs to deliver the skill and the competency required by the industry and employer. It's not just that multidisciplinary skill. It needs to deliver on that 21st century broad competency that enable that individual to create value rather than add value. So all our programs are all aligned, accredited with the competency framework in Singapore, which in any case is modeled after the Australian and the UK competency framework. Secondly, it needs to be delivered work integrated, because the highest cost of learning is actually staying inside the classroom. So if you can turn that learn through work, it's not that you are going to, it's not just reducing the cost, but also increase the outcome, the experience that you get, the ability at the same time to reduce the cost. So our learning pedagogy, which I have a slide to share with you how it works, is called Work Integrated Applied Learning. Given the journey is going to be strata across work, classroom, at home, and it needs to be blended. And more importantly, it needs to be designed in a way that able to deliver that can be personalized to an individual. Because if you need to integrate your learning into a person's work, it's unlikely that you can find everybody is doing the same thing. So you have to be able to, in some way, customize your learning journey for individual. So firstly, competency-based curriculum, as I said, all our curriculum are accredited by the Singapore Competency Framework. And we all know that learner, particularly Asian, they love to have a degree. A skill certification is not good enough. So what we did is we make our curriculum deliver interoperable credential. The learner will walk away not just skill certification or technical certification by technology vendor, but also academic equivalent of accreditation. So therefore, we will be able to have an interoperable credential that combines skills and the academic vigorous in terms of transferable knowledge in an individual. So we have this framework called EASE. Essentially, our learning can happen through self-paced e-learning. Learning can be many activities. What we define as activity is live activity. It could be a live lecture, flip class, mentoring, one-to-one mentoring. There are also community support. And finally, we can't do without certainly assessment. And the way that we have designed our system, we have been able to put a lot of these learning components as learning objects. It's almost like a Lego brick that you can string them together, that you can configure your learning journey to support a specific individual in their work to learn journey. And the work integrated learning would require more than just disseminating information in the classroom. A big part of the learning, we believe, would have to be through on-the-job experience, through mentoring and coaching. I'm sure many of you out there as educators are familiar with the 70-20-10. So a big part of our learning journey, in fact, a small percentage of 10-20% is really in the classroom. The rest are all at the workplace. Get mentor and learn through work. So our 4 years degree program, there's only 1 year that they work full-time, they study full-time in the first year. Second, third, fourth, they work full-time, study part-time, and in fact, many of that study part-time is actually get embedded into real-life project at work. Therefore, they would not have to spend a lot of the time outside the workplace, which will be invasive to an individual's personal commitment. So this is what we call work-based learning, and learning that deliver KSA, knowledge, skill, ability. We always start with delivering that conceptual knowledge through combination of e-learning and flip class, but that doesn't allow them necessarily to deliver outcome. They need to know how to apply that. And when they apply that concept successfully, they could potentially deliver an outcome. So our learning pedagogy is that after they have learned during that conceptual stage, we'll be doing things not very different from what university would do. E-learning combined perhaps with flip class in a 25-30 students setting. But what's really different is that after they have gained that concept, they would actually pick up a real-life project and we break them down into small groups where they will be given an industry mentor that mentor them on the application of that concept in a real-life project. If that real-life project results in a successful execution that deliver business outcome, that's how the business outcome would be delivered to businesses. And with execution on 1 or 2 projects on that concept do not get that learner to master their skill. And our on-demand mentor will follow them to the workplace and mentor them on continuous application of the concept to multiple projects, therefore gain mastery skill at the workplace. So over the last many years, we have invested significantly in creating curriculum that enable us to support end-to-end digital skill needs of the modern enterprises. In the modern enterprises, businesses need to have not just tech skill, but in fact, most of it is actually light tech skill in a business setting. An accountant, in the past, the technology skill that he or she need was spreadsheet, and that was probably good enough for his job. But today, if you want to be an accountant, and if you do not know data analytics with enough depth, you're unlikely going to get a job as an accountant. If you are a risk manager, if you do not know data science in depth, you're unlikely going to get a job as a risk manager. So many of these future jobs have now require deep technical digital innovation skill embedded into the job. So many of these jobs have become a hybrid of business domain and digital skill. So we have created over 20 over qualification, 100 over modules that enable us to deliver skills for technical professional as well as business professional. So I just want to share with you one program. It's called an Applied Bachelor Program for Software Engineering. So what we do is that when they join our program, they go into a full-time boot camp, 12 months. It's not a 3 hours a day that they would get in the conventional university. They would come in at 9 o'clock, they'll finish at 6 o'clock, and they do that 12 months during the first year. And what we do is we front load skill into these 12 months. And these 12 months include 6 of the months they are involved in doing offshore project with international company. So through that, on the 13th month, they will be work ready. When they are work ready, they will start working full-time as apprentice to the employer that we place with them. Many of them are international employer from Singapore, and they will work for 3 years. So the outcome for this journey would be, in short, that they would get inducted into their digital career 3 years before they graduate. Their pay typically double or triple compared to academic graduate. I'll give you an example in a case that we have validated in Myanmar. In Myanmar, if you are an IT graduate from a conventional university, you make $250 US. Our graduate makes $750 US. Generally because of 2 reasons. First, they have 3 years of full-stack software development experience. Secondly, they have a global ready skill. We all know that in countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, Myanmar, particularly this non-English speaking country, if you have that technical skill and good communication skill, able to speak good English, therefore able to take on offshore project, your salary double. So how do we instill this global ready skill? So when they check into our campus, they don't check into a Myanmar campus. They are physically in Myanmar campus, physical campus, but when they check into the class, they check into a global virtual campus. In the virtual global campus, their classmates will be from around the world, and they would be working together, collaborating, sharing, and certainly speaking in English to do joint projects. Through that, they acquire this 21st century soft skill, collaboration, sharpen their communication skill, therefore being able to be so-called future-ready talent when they graduate. Given that they can work for 3 years, 80% of the cohort would make more money than what they have to pay for the tuition fee. And in fact, we are so confident about what we deliver. We guarantee certain income. This is to cater for the bottom 20% of the cohort, which might not be able to get that salary validation from the employer. And we'll guarantee that 50% of the fee would actually be guaranteed. If the learner do not make beyond the minimum guarantee, we will actually top up the difference. So that's undergraduate. For postgraduate, we see that differently. And most university postgraduate tend to target individual. But our view is postgraduate should be targeting not just individuals who want to upskill themselves, perhaps do a better job, but also enterprises who want to transform their workforce. And all enterprises today, certainly those in Singapore, and I'm sure across the region as well, they all need to transform. So there's a great need in transforming the workplace, the workforce. So therefore, we create micro-credentials, stackable micro-credential, in the form of postgraduate certificate, of which this credential, when stacked together, it becomes a diploma. Two of the credentials stacked together will become a diploma, postgraduate diploma. If it's three of them, it becomes a master's degree. So we are not just delivering that skill that they need. More importantly, our mentor-led learning enable us to put a mentor to support the enterprises with business insight to support the transformation, because the industry practitioner would be dedicated to a company who send more than 5 people to the class, and they would get that dedicated mentor that would help to guide their team in the transformation of the business. So therefore, the businesses are not just getting a training. They are actually getting a consultant that work with their trainer that deliver the tangible outcome for them. So if you look at in terms of solution, I was talking about coupling and bundling solution. So we are bundling a training solution with a job placement solution so that they can get inducted into their career on the 13th month. For the postgraduate, we bundle with a consulting mentor that provide that insight, that work with their trainee so that they can actually facilitate a digital transformation that lead to that business outcome. So it's going back to the customer want a solution. We need to be able to create a bundling of the product that deliver that solution rather than just the knowledge that which do not, this day actually is almost free. So the first section is about how do you actually create a solution that are competitive, disruptive, that to compete. So I've gone through that. I think we have a product that has been validated, but it needs to be supported by technology. So we envision the campus of the future are a connected online to offline campus. So this online to offline campus would have integrated digital technology that enable that seamless outside-in learning operation support. We would have a connected online to offline collaborative learning platform that support that work to learn journey. And this campus would leverage on on-demand technology that deliver as a service. So this is our work to learn journey. As I said, the first 12 months they'll be on a boot camp. The first 6 months is really about skill boot camp. Second 6 months is about field induction, but it happened on campus because the project will be done as an offshore project with an international company. Then they go to the market and they would get attached to the industry and they can work inside the company where they got attached to physically, or they actually stay on campus. And because the campus would become a co-working space for the enterprise that engage this learner. So there are a lot of technology that's needed that need to be laid across the campuses to support that outside-in journey. To start is sales and marketing. So there are technology like omni-commerce webfront, digital sales and marketing engagement, and certainly in terms of tech-enabled operation, it should start from career and course planning all the way to application and enrollment to student management. Businesses need to be more intelligent, and learning analytics, virtual mentor, and clearly the entire campus need to be laid on top of a digital campus with unified communication capability. My colleagues, the EdTech, with EdTech solution, Sambaj will talk about the AI mentor, the virtual AI mentor, how it would effectively support blended learning. Yan will talk about specifically on working analytics on how you can better support career and course planning for the learner. So this is a technology that we have put together to support our learning journey. As you can see, our learning journey starts from self-paced e-learning to instructor-led flip class to small group mentoring to one-to-one support. It's a complex process, and we need technology to manage that learning journey, which one of our colleague would actually be sharing with you more on exactly how those technology can be used to support that blended learning journey. So technology is the easiest part for our transformation, in fact, for Lithan, right? For the business modeling, it wasn't difficult for me because, as you know, looking at my background, I've been a tech entrepreneur all my life. I invested in 40 tech startups, so I'm very familiar with startup model and the technology that is needed. So that's the first two imperatives. The third part, my own transformation experience, this is probably the most painful part, right? We need to change people. We need to change our faculty. We need to make them more agile. We need to let go of the physical infrastructure that we have and adopt an agile infrastructure. So these are the trends. 90% of organizations are redesigning jobs, and 32% are doing substantially. Future workforce will be structured more by project rather than by job function. More than half of all employees will require significant reskilling and upskilling. 85% of business plan to increase their use of independent freelancer. So the trend really points to there need to be plenty of job redesign, workforce reskilling, and certainly looking at resources beyond permanent ownership, but rather into the gig economy. So future learners are generally multidisciplinary. They need to have an innovative skill. They need to be agile and certainly digital ready. In order to have all those agility, multidisciplinary skill, digital skill, clearly they need to be a lifelong learner. And individuals need to be multidisciplinary and T-shaped. They need to have broad competency. They also need multiple deep skills. An accountant would need data analytics. An accountant that do not know how to implement an ERP system unlikely is going to keep his job. So what Lithan did is that, in fact, the first thing we did when we started the transformation is a lot of redesigning of work, because we need to make the team smaller. Because if it's smaller, it's more agile, it's faster. And when you're trying to make it smaller, effectively, that same individual needs to have more skill. So, like for example, a salesperson, when they sell in the digital economy, is very different from a traditional business sales. Because sales is marketing, marketing is sales in a digital transaction. And therefore, a sales manager would need to be half a digital marketer. So a faculty who deliver would probably need to be a designer and also a learning manager, all rolled into one. So through this redesign, as well as Uberizing of that whole workforce, and for us, it certainly suits us fine because we want industry practitioners. And if they are hired by us, they're unlikely to become a practitioner after a while. So we want them current. We want them to be working somewhere else, and they will become an adjunct faculty when we need them to deliver. So that's what we have gone through in terms of redesigning the faculty to deliver the type of agility that's needed. So we have transformed as a business. We believe that we have a great product, a product that can deliver tangible business outcome. We also have technology that is able to support this innovative product. More importantly, we also have set up an ecosystem that, leveraging on this technology, this industry practitioner across the region, and we are pulling this together, and we can't do it on our own, we believe, going into each of the country. We want to work with university. So what we propose to do is, we would partner with university in each of these countries, and we will jointly set up what we call a Claas Academy. And this academy would deliver digital innovation program for both undergraduate as well as postgraduate. But in order for us to do that, we need to set up a talent and a learning ecosystem. And if you look at this platform, it needs to be including all the stakeholders that support this collaborative learning ecosystem. The first block obviously is the student and the adult learner. The second is actually the employer and the enterprises. Thirdly is actually the educator, like the industry expert, as well as the technology that would need to support that learning journey. And university is a big part of that ecosystem. And the university and the government, frequently you won't, unless you get that course accredited with the university, you wouldn't get the funding. So the funding, in a way, the government get involved with the university to deliver that funding, as well as the campuses, the credential, the trust that the market needs. So how do we work together? So we believe that it needs to be collaboration between university, Lithan, as well as the employer and enterprises. Because in that work learning the journey, it's strata between campuses as well as the workplace. We need to bring together not just a learner on one side, but also the employer and the enterprises on the other side. What we need to do is to provide that seamless connection between learning and the consumption of the skill in the industry. And we make it seamless. What we did by basically getting the employer to hire this learner as an apprentice on the 13th month, essentially we are bringing the employer to not just provide the environment for them to acquire the work experience, but also the funding that comes along to support that learning journey. So essentially, we believe that for countries that don't need regulation, don't need the accreditation of the course and etc., everything is on demand, and it can be delivered in 90 days. There lies the title of our talk is about how can we actually transform a university in 90 days. It's actually by combining our capability, work together to be able to launch it as soon as the September intake. So the program offering with this Claas Academy that we jointly set up within the university would have to be not just providing training for higher education, but also for the adult learner and the enterprises. There lies what the university offer would be more than just an applied work study degree for undergraduate, but also a digital upscaling and career transition for postgraduate, and a digital transformation and just-in-time talent for enterprises. Technically, we are actually a talent provider. We incubate talent for employers who want to come into our ecosystem. In fact, we are very fortunate that we sit in Singapore, because Singapore has a great shortage of software talent, technical talent. And Singapore will be short of 40,000 IT professionals in the next few years. And that's why we are setting up, there is a demand for this talent in Singapore, because there are not enough of them, and they are 6 to 10 times more expensive than our neighbor. So what we need to do is to work with you as university to incubate this talent, to supply this talent to this employer in Singapore. And therefore, as a business, we are actually a talent provider to these enterprises. So this is our product, as I said. When we go to the enterprise, we don't talk about just training, which is our class. We talk about implementing the technology and the solution in the enterprise, as well as the delivering of talent just in time to support their business. So what we envision with working together with you as our local university partner, we envision an applied lifelong university for the digital economy. This university would deliver future-ready skills, such as innovation skill, technology skill, and digital skill. And the university provide lifelong learning from higher education to continuous education. Our learning deliver tangible skill utilization at the workplace. So therefore, the learning pedagogy would have to be highly industry relevant with a mentor-led work-based learning delivery. And the journey would have to be strata between the classroom and the workplace. And the workplace can also be on campus with the outsourcing model. And by combining our credential, our skill certification credential, your degree credential, local degree credential, in fact, we are also talking to Western University that could also, on top of that, provide international degree credential. Therefore, learner could walk away with credential that not just strata between a local recognized credential, but also international, and as well as the skill certification credential. Thank you very much. I hope that I have done justice in terms of sharing with you what it takes to transform. Our own experience has been, it wasn't a walk in the park as I envisioned. Given my background as a tech entrepreneur, as an IT person, as a startup investor, I walk into the transformation process with actually some arrogance. But it wasn't a walk in the park, because it's holistic. When you're trying to do things holistically, there are many moving blocks. And as I said, the easier piece is not the technology, because it's all working, all available. It's not even the learning pedagogy, but it's really getting the team to be able to deliver that in a super short time. So that was the challenge that we have, but we get through that. And we hope that whatever that we have done as a company, we could work with you and go through that journey with you without the same pain that we have gone through, because we have taken most of the pain. And therefore, we could do that quicker, faster, more cost efficient with you to transform your business. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. And thank you, Leslie, for the very comprehensive insight to the role of higher institutions and its faculty in the converging economy, as well as opportunity in preparing its graduates to be job ready in a highly competitive global marketplace. I would like to now introduce our EdTech speaker, who will be talking about solutions that they have developed that will create innovative disruptions, redefine the way we learn, and created fundamental change to the future of lifelong learning. So our first EdTech speaker is Mr. Jan Lambros. He's the CEO and founder of Epitome Global. Epitome is a workforce analytics company that focuses mainly on preparing workforces for the fourth industrial revolution. So to date, Epitome actually has already developed several transitional projects at the national, private, industrial, and institutional level by providing policymakers and industrial conglomerates the analytics they need to perform effective planning for short-term and long-term strategy. So Yang has 18 years of entrepreneurial career spanning 5 continents and was one of the early enablers of server-based cloud computing for enterprises. Yang has also co-founded some commercial cloud storage platforms between the late 90s and to the mid-20s. He was also an award winner of the Endeavor Entrepreneur in October 2018. So it's my pleasure to hand over to you, Yang.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Jan Lambros. Obviously, I'm not from Asia, but I'm originally from Belgium. I moved a few decades ago to Asia, and I've never returned back. I've been living in India, Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, etc., etc. Epitome is a lifelong learning organization with a focus on human development. We are trying to find identity and purpose for everybody in the world. Because if you think back about it, and if we go back in history, and I'm just talking about 2019 December, we were talking about the fourth industrial revolution, like elaborated by Leslie quite a bit. And we all know it's coming. We all know that 50% of the jobs we know today will disappear within 5 years. We all know that 85% of the jobs in 2030 still haven't been invented yet. And this is then the moment that the pandemic happened, and this fourth industrial revolution has been fast forwarded drastically. So whatever we were preparing for and whatever we thought we were preparing for is now in effect. So we have now, online assessment portals that we have to push out, online learning that we have to push out, online training management systems that we have to push out because we were caught in speed. So this is where we try to play a role in. How do you make your workforce employable? How do you make your graduates more employable for the future? How do you create a lifelong learning mindset in all your students and in all your graduates so that you don't only prepare them for life after university, but also for the life in their career and all the steps they have to take there? And before I start into the solution, if we can click for the next slide, I want to show you some data. This is gathered from our portal. So this was done in the beginning of 2020, January, when the pandemic was not hitting that hard yet. And what we found out is that only 21% of the top right of the ASEAN undergraduates, graduates, and early career job seekers are in alignment with their career. So they totally love and they know what to expect after their learning and when they go into the workforce. But that's only 21%. If you now aggregate that results a little bit and you go a higher level on this, if you do workforce planning for a country, you would expect 100 engineers to come out. But no, there is actually only 21 engineers coming out. All the rest need some intervention points to help them and to make sure that we can help them progress in their life after studying or in their career. And some of these things can be very simple. Sometimes it's a matter of matching an individual to an internship program so he understands the job better that he has to do after he studies. Sometimes it's an apprenticeship. Sometimes it's matching with a mentor or a coach or somebody in the alumni. But this is something that we have to address, and this is what we are addressing with our platform, which is catering automated individual career services per student or graduate that will be coming on our platform. So if you look into the next slide, what we are offering basically, it's not an LMS, it's a learning experience platform where we look in each phase that the student is. So from the moment they come to the university, are they choosing the right chapters for them? Are they choosing the right topics for them? all the way up to alumni. The moment you hit your workforce, this is becoming now an interesting problem to have. When we go to the workforce, we need to ensure that our graduates have a lifelong learning mindset, because where our parents, they probably worked 20 to 30 years into one company and doing the same job, that is going to drastically change. Our kids, they will probably have to do 5, 6, 7 major career switches in their life. That's why that lifelong learning mindset is extremely important. This is where the role of universities and higher education colleges is going to be extremely important, that they capture the alumni as well, because the ones that are going to the workforce need to be upskilled continuously as well. So we believe that one of the key differentiators today for higher education schools and for universities is employability, which is going to be a major key differentiator even now. If you can provide data of long-term job placement and career progress, that would be extremely interesting for everybody. So if you look into the next slide, this is then how we would be starting. We would be starting very simple, because what I'm talking to is quite big and quite grand, but there is like very small steps that we can take together to go to that common goal, guaranteeing employability of our students. Is the first thing would be the catalyst profiling. Getting aligned to your career path and course of study starts with understanding your basic career interests and your general competencies. If you don't know what those are, our platform Advance can then recommend a range of suitable career options and courses, or internships, or apprenticeships, or mentors, or coaches, or whoever it is that you need to talk at a certain moment, and we will connect them to you. Now, one of the very, very important parts that we are seeing is we need to start. What do we need to be employable over time? It's not going to be about your degree and your experience anymore. It's going to be about your mindset and your competence. So if we go to the next slide, the advanced portion of our solution is a suite, and it's called Epitome Actualize. But the very important part for higher education and universities to look now into is the demand portion. It's the companies, the CEOs, the startups, the scale-ups that invent the jobs of the future and the skills of the future, basically. They know what they need to survive the next 3 to 5 years. We see now, because we have a lot of companies entering our portal, they have a few issues. Number one, they're still hiring based on CV, and that is an instrument that doesn't work anymore. Number two, they're struggling with the fact that when they hire graduates, they have to invest in training, upskilling, reskilling, unlearning, learning those graduates, and only after 6 to 12 months or even longer, those new graduates will bring relevance to the job. And that's actually totally crazy, because that is something that you, as a higher education institution or the university, can take control of. If you can match the competence of your graduates towards the needs of the new workforce, then you win, because then those companies will hire faster, and the new the students that will enter the job will be faster employable, will be generating work for their new employers way faster than before. So this is where we want to go to. We need to really start delivering the workforce of the future based on the skills that are needed by the enterprises and the startups and the scale-ups that are in the regions of the schools. So I think I did it a bit faster than 10 minutes, but I didn't want to drill too much into detail. So I'm looking forward for all your questions. And if you guys would like to have a demo, you can contact us as well. So we set up a demo for you on how you can see that a student will come in. We profile, we look into their values, their interests, their preferences. We look into their employability skills. We do an English assessment. We do an ICT assessment, whatever it is. And we have a total understanding of this particular student, on how he learns and who he is. Then, when we have some of the companies coming in saying these are the skills or these are the trends that we're seeing in employability, then we can start doing that matching, and that's where then the third part of our solution comes in, Coach, which is then a personalized, adaptive, responsive learning management system, basically, where we match content to your graduates to be more employable over time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yang. I think that's very interesting and very impressive about your end-to-end way of analyzing a student's ability, learning ability, and match it with competency services to ensure employability going forward. That's excellent. Our next education technology speaker is Mr. Giri Danayak. Giri is actually the CEO and founder of Sambash based in Singapore. And it has been helping education institutions get ready for future of learning with its flagship product. Sambash has helped education institutions deliver the pedagogy of blended learning in a personalized, consistent, complete, and affordable manner to help students with intelligent intervention for enhanced learning outcomes. Giri is involved in preschool education as well through the Ramakrishna Mission Shrada Kindergarten, a preschool which has been recognized as a role model kindergarten in Singapore for early childhood development. Previously, he was also the CTO at Sangad Ambit. Mr. Giri, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Joel, for the kind introduction. It was very interesting to listen from Jan on how workplace placement is changing and how data-driven systems is going to change the entire way the systems of placement works and the way the students has to be skilled. Before I go into talking about implementer, I would like to just catch back with what Leslie was sharing in terms of future of workplace, which also resonates with what Jan was talking about. So it's very important to note that most of the skills that are required in the future would be automated for robots. And one of the other key attributes would be everything on demand. And more importantly, that Lithan has also been dogfooding itself. And this is where Omnimentor comes into the place, where one of the challenges of, or many of the challenges of blended learning was being addressed through Omnimentor. So before we go into details of what Omnimentor is all about, let us just take a back seat and understand what happens in the blended learning journey, which is so different from a conventional education system, which is typically driven through a classroom-based pedagogy, where a teacher or a set of teachers come in and teach subjects. So in a blended learning journey, what typically happens is the three attributes: knowledge, skills, and ability. For class, to acquire knowledge, the basic building block is a set of e-learning modules or a set of e-learning instructional units, which is then combined with a sort of formative assessments, followed or interjected with flipped class, where you have instructors or the industry mentors coming in and helping out with clarifications and knowledge-based sharing that happens. So this is how a typical model gets executed in a formative stage, where a set of e-learning components gets combined into or is basically constructed by many instructional units, and it is then delivered via an online self-paced learning system. At the end of a module, you are actually assessed for skills, and that's when the student or the learner then goes down into the mode of getting mentored. And here you have a next set of actors come into place. So the industry mentors who come in and help in terms of imparting real life project skills, something that Jan was alluding to in terms of the gap that may exist between what a learner would have from his academic year, a learning experience versus what would be different in terms of a blended learning experience that Lithan and impart. So herein you have mentors coming in and helping out with real life projects that gets delivered, and there is again a mix and match of online learning with online support, and sometimes in-person support comes to place. So in other words, you have online to offline and offline to online coming to place, which means the engagement mode is driven across multiple channels. So this is the key thing of what blended learning is all about. Other aspect of blended learning is to ensure that you overcome the limitations of a physical classroom environment, where a physical teacher can only take X number of students in a given duration. So in the blended learning, since you allow the students to be e-learning by themselves, you are able to have the same content being delivered across the online channels, and you can scale up the delivery of the classes, which means you can scale up the number of qualifications and the number of modules that you can run concurrently within a given span of time. Hence, you can actually scale your ability to deliver the classes. So this is the first advantage of blended learning that comes into place. The next one that we look at is how does it make it very collaborative. So blended learning involves not just the instructor or not just replacing the teacher with the instructor. There can be multiple instructors coming in terms of industry mentors who come for a very specific subject or a skill that needs to be taught within a particular course or within a particular module of a course. So thereby you start collaborating. The learner starts interacting not only with just one instructor but also with industry mentor, and you get personalized address, a personalized way of being mentored, because you start creating breakout sessions where the mentors start get more involved with the learners. Now, as this is going on, there is a learning designer, the course designer, who has designed the course, waiting to look into how the interactions that are happening with the learner, and also trying to see as to how viable this particular course is in terms of imparting the skills, imparting the knowledge, imparting the ability that the learner would like to acquire. So there are key interaction points that happens between the learning designer and learner through a set of series of feedbacks and surveys in order to understand the applicability of the course for the learner. And more importantly, like what our two previous speakers had spoken about, how the entire workplace, the future workplace is changing. You have employers now coming into the place, right into the education of the learner. So it's not that you need to have the learner go through all the skill collections before he gets ready for the job. Rather, you are actually bringing in or forwarding the skills, like how Lithan has tried it out in Myanmar, where they're trying to get the skills front-loaded and then get them ready for employment, because they're getting the skills included as part of the curriculum. In this case, the employers have collaborated with the learner and are trying to see as to how they can specifically zoom down into those skill sets that they would like the learner to bring to the table as soon as he or she becomes ready for apprenticeship or for future employment. So this is how blended learning is very important, and this is what are the advantages of blended learning that comes into place as we start transforming the pedagogy of delivery in terms of supporting the future of workplace. Having said that, it is not without its challenge. So blended learning is supposed to increase the scalability of delivery of the courses, but there are certain roadblocks. There are certain issues which hamper such a scalability. The first and the foremost is the collaboration. As we know, with any collaboration, you always have a lot of instructions and directives that come into place. So when a learner is going through his learning journey, there is quite a bit of facilitation that needs to take place in a blended learning, because most of them are self-paced e-learning. So when you come down to a flipped class, a mentor should already be knowing how much of the knowledge or the content has the learner consumed, how much has really understood, how much has really reflected that understanding through assessments that he or she must be taking, and how much of that is really something that he's struggling with. So at the same time, a learning designer would also be looking into the same aspect and thinking maybe the learner did not consume the content, or maybe it was something very difficult for the learner to understand. But on the flip side of it, it may be the fact that the content may not be relevant to the learner, to the skills or the knowledge that he's trying to acquire. So on the other hand, an employer would be working or interacting with the learner to see whether they are on par or on course with the skills that they want this learner to acquire for their particular job or the skills that they're trying to train them for. So in this case, what happens is there's a lot of learning facilitation that needs to be done, and for that, there's multiple channels of engagement that starts coming to place, and this may impact the learner's focus in terms of what he or she is trying to achieve. This is one of the biggest learning blocks that a blended learning brings to the fore. Then the fact that there are multiple actors, like we just saw, there is industry mentor who can give certain advice, there is instructor who can give another set of advice, there's an employer who's trying to give you a focus and direction. It all boils down to having too many cooks who can potentially spoil the soup, and it may happen if it is not really managed well. So this is the second biggest problem of blended learning that comes to place. The third one, which goes down, is to do with the personalization. So the very basis of why blended learning was brought in was to increase the scalability. but it also removed the personalization that a physical classroom teaching would have imparted. A teacher would be knowing a student very well or a learner very well, and they would know as to how to manage the curriculum across this particular learner and help them out. Now, in terms of e-learning, where everything is self-paced, there is a need to personalize this in terms of helping out the learner in terms of staying on track, on focus in terms of achieving the outcome. To do that, you may need to put in or drive in more time from the mentor or from the instructor, which basically increases the cost. Not only increases the cost, but also limits scalability because your mentors are tied up trying to help them with facilitation work. And lastly, the biggest problem of the blended learning management system as we see now is that there's no complete view of the learning journey. So what do we mean by this? The learner is actually seeing his journey. The designer sees only the input that's coming out from the surveys and the feedback. The employer is only seeing in terms of what is required for his skills to be matching to the job. The mentors are only coming in very specifically in terms of trying to impart the skills only at a project mentoring stage. So these are all different aspects of touch point that happens at different parts of the learning journey, and there's no single view which comes into place in terms of trying to say constantly help the learner and the educators to be on the same page. So these are the four major problems that comes into blended learning management, and this is something that Leslie was mentioning when he said he's not putting it. It comes from the fact that once you start bringing some of these technologies, it is not just it's not just a technology issue, it's not just the domain issue, but also the fact of transforming the people's mindset. And this is where it comes in place, which created the need for OmniMentor. Now, OmniMentor is an AI-powered system like we discussed earlier. It is data-driven, and we'll see in a little while as to how it really functions. But primarily, it gives you 5 different benefits or 5 different key solution points. So the first thing is omnichannel.
Giri, I need to interrupt. I think you.
Hello.
Giri.
Yeah. Let's see.
You are given 10 minutes.
Okay. Fine.
You're way over.
Okay.
Can you speed it up? Yeah.
I'll speed it up. Yeah. Thanks, Leslie. So we have omnichannel engagement where we bring all the actors onto the same page, out to basically the same engagement platform, where we open up one-to-one or one-to-many chats which come into place. And these are not just self-directed chats, but also the fact of intervening chat, where the intervention is being delivered in terms of a learning facilitation. So we have users, learners, who are able to, who will be in a different phase of journey. At some point of time, they might be falling behind their assessment, or if they're doing the assessment, they may be failing in their assessment. So all of that facilitation can be delivered through a learning journey facilitation. So which means we intervene actually based on the data and try to help the students to be able to stick to their journey. While doing so, there's assessment that's being done. So these are the assessment points where we are able to look at the scoring patterns, the assessment patterns, the assignment patterns that comes into place, the completion pattern, the content consumption patterns, and be able to predictively grade and say how much of your grading would be if you continue in this manner. And if you need to improve your grading or your scorings, what else you need to do and how do you go about it? So this kind of information or advice is available not only to the learner, but to rest of the other mentors or the instructors who are actually working with the student. So thereby you get a complete view of the cohort that's happening at the same time. So to drive this, there's an underlying 360-degree view of the performance dashboard that is getting created. And this 360-degree view gives you the view of the learner's analytics, the learning journey analytics, the learning management analytics too, in terms of trying to say how a cohort, how a learner is performing, how a cohort is performing, how a course content consumption is being utilized, and what are the design aspects of the course that needs to change or potentially be redone, which comes out of some of the dashboard analytics that is put together. So this in nutshell is what OmniMentor delivers. So how it works, it basically takes all your learning data in terms of demographics, in terms of attendance, engagement, content consumption, assessment survey, and works through this magic sauce of AI algorithms that we put on top of it. And it starts delivering interpreted data back as intervention chats or back as intervention messages to the learners, to the faculties, to the instructors, or to the employers who are all working on the same platform at this point of time. And it starts off with intervention in terms of trying to help the learner stay on the track of the journey. It then starts going down into prediction in terms of how you're progressing and where you need to be and how you can go to that level, and then start adding on in terms of personalizations of looking into a specific journey and a specific learner's performance that can be upgraded as you go along, and then results into a lot of benchmarking data that is spewed out of the system. So this is the functional flow of the information. From a tooling perspective, it is all driven through any standard chat system where you can integrate with something like Telegram or WhatsApp. You have all the learners, you have the instructors and all on this particular apps on your mobile phone. And as and when these interventions are happening, it gets delivered to you offline or online basis. And this is driven through, you're also allowed to access dashboards, you're also allowed to look at visualizations of the way your MCQs are being addressed, your MCQs, the way the difficulty level of the MCQs are being put into place. All of these things are what comes on the dashboards. So underlying that is a various set of scenario playbooks. To keep it simple, playbooks are nothing but a set of rules that work on the data sets, patterns, creates certain classifiers and patterns, and then gives us the recommendation and the prediction based on how the rules are configured. So this is how the Omni Mentor works in terms of working with the learners and the rest of the other actors. So a little bit on the technical architecture, which I think I'll just skim through. We basically pluck out data from the LMS, from the student management systems, from the exam management systems. All of the data gets interpreted, and there is a set of reusability of the data that keeps happening in terms of interactions happening. There is inclusion of certain natural language processing that comes into play. So the user interactions result into refining of the playbooks, and this is something that keeps on ongoing as we go along in terms of the usage of the system. So to sum it up, basically the value propositions are three phases. One is for the learners, where we help them to have a personalized learning journey, bring back the concept of classroom, where a teacher knows a student very well. This is what we deliver through Omni Mentor for the learners. Get timely intervention so that you stay on track and get the remedial actions to place so that you know you can get the learning outcomes that you're coming for. For educators, it allows you to look at the entire classroom in a cohort-like, in a very intelligent manner, because it gives you all the data points, and it nudges you to do certain things in terms of trying to manage and help the students. It also tries to make the educators very productive and efficient, simply because they can now scale up the ability to manage multiple cohorts at the same time, because they visualize feedback they're getting for each learner and for the cohort together. And it also allows you to redesign courses based on the learning insights that you're obtaining from the entire 360-degree analytics that is being embedded into the system. From an employer perspective, it is very key that they are able to customize the learning journey to their needs, to their job skills, to their business that they need these learners to come into. By being able to rejig the courses, and having rejigged the courses, they're able to track these courses based on their needs. And the last thing is to basically allow them to be actively involved in shaping the learning outcome to meet their business needs. So with this, I'd like to conclude my short discussion on Omni Mentor. And if there are any other questions, I think I'll be available to take it up at a later point of time.
Thank you, Thierry. I think it's a very comprehensive as well in terms of our presentations to have this 360 mentorship program, the tools that's able to customize and personalize the learning journey as well as the learning outcome of the learners. Excellent.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, we are now going into our academicians route. So our academicians will be discussing on education policy, the emerging trend, transformation landscape, and also their plan from the current pandemic situation towards a future-ready university. Our first academic speaker is Professor Anil. Without much introduction, I believe almost everybody in the technology industries in India would know who is Professor Anil. He is the chairman of All India Council for Technical Education. Professor Anil is the chairman, again, of All India Council for Technical Education, AICTE in short. So AICTE is the accreditation authority for all technical and management education systems in India, from graduate to postgraduate programs, under specific categories at Indian institutions as per its charter. Professor Anil has 31 years of illustrious career and held several top academic, research, and administrative positions across India. He is also the chairman and expert member on various national level committees, such as the Basic Scientific Research, Empowered Committee of University Grants Commission, Swayam Board, and also the chairman for the Board of Governors of the National Institute of Technology in Itanagar. Professor Arnold was awarded with Maha Entrepreneur Award 2011 of Praj Industries Pune, and his leadership and innovative abilities in the area of technology development and entrepreneurship initiatives. Professor Arnold graduated in mechanical engineering from first rank and gold medal in 1980. He also obtained a master's in 1982 and doctoral degree with University Grants Commission Fellowship in 1989 from the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore. Professor Arnold, it is our honor to have you with us today. The audience is right for you now.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Probably already evening in Singapore. Welcome to all of you to this particular session where academicians are going to talk. I was listening to Leslie. In fact, we had similar meeting a couple of days back in another forum. I listened to Giridhar Nayak and of course, thank Rahul for inviting me over for this platform. And my good friend Bharat is also going to speak. He's from India, from Pune, one of the institutions where I had looked at how they progress from one level to the other level. Now, being a regulator in technical education and what are we going to do during COVID and post-COVID times is very, very important. And what is given here is a poster where it talks about future-ready university in 90 days. So I think we are talking about a future university which would be fully ready at 90 days time. It's very difficult to make a university forget about 90 days. Sometimes it takes years to make it, because I was associated with the setting up of Indian Institute of Technology in Guwahati, Assam, and in the formative years to get established, it took about 5 years in the brick and mortar model, then subsequently to really scale up the high spirits and also get into going into better quality of education. It took another 10 years. So I think brick and mortar universities always took about minimum 10 to 15 years to stabilize, and to really come to excellence, it normally takes about 25 years. And therefore, this 90 days business is very, very difficult one. But however, with the adaptability and the use of technology that is available at our disposal, this job may not be so difficult as what we normally assume. And the reason being, some of us are already prepared in some way in terms of online education, using MOOCs platform for giving the lectures for the students. We have also had several types of other online activities which have been happening during the COVID times, and faculty development programs, whether it is students being engaged in terms of internships, whether students are being interviewed for their selections as well as for their appointments. I think online has in a way come to stay. And therefore, the only thing which is needed, as Leslie rightly pointed out, that technology is available, whether our mindsets are ready for accepting the change. That's why adaptability becomes very, very significant and important in today's time. And so in the future, in the 90 days, what needs to be done is where technology has not reached, we have to ensure that it reaches. For example, in a large country of our size in India with 1.35 billion population, with huge number of states, different languages, I think penetration of internet to nooks and corners. See, one of the ideas earlier was road to every village, and then subsequently we talked about electricity to all villages. Today, the new slogan should be internet connectivity to every village and every home. So if we are able to achieve that, probably online will become normally very, very easily achievable. And then second point, which Nayak also pointed out, is very important, as well as Leslie pointed out in some way, is about the physical interaction and actual classes being held on the campus. It has its own value. When we come to the theoretical knowledge, it's very easy to adopt it and then send it across via online mechanism and medium, whether it is MOOCs courses or various LMS systems which have come in place. But when you want to really get some kind of values to be embedded in the students, I think you require face-to-face mode of brick and mortar education. It is not merely the morals and values and ethics, but also many other facets. A student has to live a life where he is interacting with real human beings, not the robots. And therefore, when he is in a classroom, he will interact with students physically, as well as sometimes there are some arguments, discussions, debates. He will be associated with various clubs, whether it is robotics club or automotive club. He will work with hands, actually, hands-on experience. There are laboratory classes, workshop practices, which are required to be learned on the machines. They cannot be only on the virtual mode. And therefore, there is a necessity of students coming to the campuses. So often we are talking about the new normal, which is going to be a blended one. Some part will be in the online mode and some part will be offline mode. And I was very excited to see the technology being utilized for creating a portal where seamless online and offline is likely to happen. I think there are many possible other ways also. And what we talk about use of technology, especially AI, artificial intelligence and machine learning has that capability of almost monitoring the progress of the student, exactly like what would have happened in terms of a real teacher and student relationship. In India, we call Guru Shishya Parampara. So we have students coming to the gurus, that is the teachers, and then they have a strong bonding interaction, and every small flaw that a student has is corrected by the teacher. I think this was possible because with a small number of students, one faculty is associated. Quite often in our universities, we all talk about student-faculty ratio, which is normally said to be good if it is about 1:10 or at most 1:12 and not more than that. Thereby, there is a constant engagement between teachers and students. They will be able to moderate, correct, and also mentor and take students forward in the journey of learning. And therefore, can we do it in the online mode? And this question can be answered through the, as I said, AI and machine learning, where if the kind of responses that the student is giving, the number of hours he is actually putting in learning the courses that are being admitted to him and asked to watch the videos, based on all of that and the type of questions he asks, if there is a blog, can he answer some of the questions raised by some of his peers? I think by looking at all of that and getting engaged with a strong AI tool, one can really determine where a student is lagging and what further needs to be given to him so that he will perfect his art and science of the new technology that is emerging. I think there are several tools which have already emerged, and I'm very happy to say that in India, there are a large number of startups as well as some of the larger companies who have come up with AI-based personalized learning tools which are absolutely adaptable. A student will get into this particular module, he will be tested for his current state of knowledge and what he wants to achieve, that is basically outcomes that he wants to achieve. And gradually, the portal will take him through a journey of learning certain courses, subjects, and even it may be at micro level to some of them macro level, and gradually leading the journey towards perfection and excellence in that particular domain where he is interested. I think these types of tools being already available, we have enlisted them on our portal. Many of them during the lockdown period in the COVID-19 times have come forward for giving all of them free of cost, and there are about 50 such applications on board. They are from all kinds of subjects, right from AI itself to IoT, machine learning, 3D printing, blockchain, cyber security, cloud computing, you name it, and there is a course which is available for learning through all of these platforms. I'm sure most of us are also aware of edX platform of MIT, as well as that of Coursera from Stanford and so on. So I think throughout the world, there have been several possibilities that exist. But what was very interesting was, over a period of a decade or so, we were gradually moving into the online mode of or mixed mode, or what we call hybrid mode or blended mode of learning. But the progress was very slow. It was almost like an incubator in a startup system. So we were incubating these kind of ideas and technologies in our educational institutions. The COVID-19 has forced us to create a super accelerator not just accelerator. In startup terminology, we talk about accelerator, but here it is super accelerator. And the pace at which the changes are already happening and likely to happen will bring in a new normal where a university possibly can be established in 90 days, fully functional, and many of the, at least, if not full degrees, but at least some part of the degree can be certainly offered through such kind of mechanisms and possible technologies. Now, coming back, very interestingly, AICTE through a committee had also come up with what are the new and emerging technologies. In the industry always talks about students being lopsided in terms of learning very old skill sets which are not useful for the industry 4.0. And so through the committee, we identified all those 9 courses which are very significant and important. So instead of starting a full-fledged graduate program in AI, IoT, machine learning, deep learning, robotics, 3D printing, blockchain, cybersecurity, and augmented reality, virtual reality, we said these courses should be at least offered in terms of what is known as minor degree. So a student may do a mechanical major, but along with that 18 to 20 credits if he does in AI, he will get a minor degree in AI. Suppose a computer science student does 3D printing, some 18 credits, he will get a computer science major with a minor in 3D printing. I think that is the way forward that we have already implemented, which will improve employability of our graduates to a great extent on one side, and many of them can come forward and create their own startups, because these are all areas where a lot of applications are required in the future, and our students who are so bright can come up with solutions. And we are pretty confident for 2 reasons that India experimented with what is known as Smart India Hackathon, where problem statements from government departments, industries were thrown as challenge for our students. Undergrad students of just 2nd year, 3rd year of engineering came out with brilliant out-of-the-box solutions. They were then shortlisted, and some of these solutions, after the hackathon and prize-winning teams made to work for another 6 months as a project, have been implemented by the government, implemented by the many companies. So that shows the strength that exists amongst our students. Only that we need to give it fine finishing touches, give them encouragement, give them support, and give them mentorship. I think that is the role that we all have. And I'm very happy that our Honorable Prime Minister Modi, when he had been to Singapore, he raised this issue with the Prime Minister of Singapore, and there was the first ever India-Singapore hackathon held in Nanyang Technological University just about 2 years ago. Followed up with that, we had a counterpart hackathon which was held in IIT Madras. Students from Singapore, both NUS, NTU and other institutions came here, and there was a very interesting challenging statement which was given to them, and they found out solutions which are useful for not only government but many of the industries. I think the way forward is give practical exposure, give practical internships to students along with the theory part of it, and I'm sure that they will all be very successful, capable and engineers who are going to be useful for the entire society. I conclude here. If there are any questions later, I will take them on. But otherwise, I think these times are going to be very exciting times post-COVID. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you very much for this very trying moment that we are all going through right now, for sharing at least the silver lining that is available, especially in the education industry, and being a very big evangelist and supporters that using the power of unified and advanced technology to enable a fully blended learning pedagogy without sacrificing human interaction, whether offline or online. That's excellent. Thank you very much. Now let's invite our next international speaker, Professor Claire Ozan. Professor Claire Ozan is the Vice Provost at the University of Roehampton, London, where she is responsible to lead the university international strategy, collaborative partnerships, as well as online program development and delivery. Prior to this, Claire was the Assistant Dean for Learning and Teaching, as well as the Head of Biological and Health Sciences Department. Professor Ozan is also a founding member of the Global Canopy Program that has significantly benefited many countries, for example, Australia, Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Uganda. She is also a grant reviewer for international bodies, including Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada, the Norwegian Research Council, and the UNESCO. Claire attained her doctor in philosophy from the Oxford University in year 1991 and is a professor of ecology, highly recognized for her seminal contribution to forest canopy science. Professor Ozan is also a principal fellow of the Higher Education Academy. Professor Ozan, good morning and welcome, and the stage is yours.
Good morning and good afternoon, and welcome from the UK to all participants in this event. The University of Roehampton is located in southwest London in the UK, about 45 minutes from the Houses of Parliament, and I'm very pleased to be able to share our journey of transformation with you today. We're a university with just over 9,000 students on campus and about the same number of students online and with our partners around the world. Our purpose to change lives and improve the world is pursued with an underpinning ethos of supporting and encouraging and challenging our staff and our students. So in this presentation, I'm going to cover 5 future readiness topics. I'm going to consider the UK government strategy for digital skills, say something about why the University of Roehampton in many ways was ready for remote learning, to look at the university's principles and approaches to remote learning, and to share with you some of our first steps to mitigate COVID-19 and our future plan for next year, the autumn term. So firstly, something about government strategy. So in 2017, the UK government published 2 key strategies. The UK Industrial Strategy, Building a Better Britain for the Future, which contained 5 grand challenges, one of which was AI and the data economy. And they pledged to support digital training and education and skills. And then the UK Digital Strategy focused on ensuring that we were upskilled to meet the needs of future jobs. And within the UK Digital Strategy was a section on the digital capability for all. Firstly, this addressed embedding skills in education, both formally up to the age of 16, and then through the development of new qualifications, T-levels or technical levels, A-levels, equivalent to A-levels at 18, and also enabling students to pick up digital skills through volunteering that they might do. Then they address lifelong learning through apprenticeships, very similar to the approach that Mr. Leslie Lowe described earlier on of work-based learning. Develop a national college for digital skills, and also ensuring that access to the internet and technology could be free for all by providing it through our local library network. There's also a strand on women and digital skills and on cybersecurity. And then an approach in tandem with business, working with business to provide coding and digital skills training with organisations like Cisco, British Telecom, Barclays and others. So now to say something about Roehampton's approach. Roehampton has a history of inclusivity and innovation, which I think are really important stepping stones to remote learning, placing us in a really good position to meet the current challenges. Our constituent colleges were founded in the mid-19th century to provide pioneering higher education to women. We were one of the first institutions in the UK to adopt flexible degree structures in the 1990s, to offer fully online programs with private providers, and to address the needs of students who commute on a daily basis to our campus, and to provide flexible and blended learning for those students. We were amongst the first UK institutions to move to remote learning to mitigate the impact of COVID-19. Although our campus has always been open, and we still have about 500 students living on our campus. And underpinning this, I think it's important that we also state how important, when we move forward in this new era, our attention to physical health and mental health issues will be. And we have a strapline, safe study, safe campus, going into the next academic year. A number of principles on which we've based our remote learning. Firstly, that all the material we provide must be inclusive. That means recognisable to all, regardless of ethnicity or socioeconomic background, and accessible to all, so including all of those who are disabled in some way. Our teaching sessions should have a flexible design and really engage students so that they are active rather than passive learners. Our modules have a structured, coherent approach and a consistency across programs so that students understand where their journey is taking them. And we build in student support at regular points throughout the program. Moving then to the first steps that Roehampton took when we were faced with lockdown as a result of the impact of COVID. We moved our lectures online so that students could study them at any point at any time, but retained our live classes, which were synchronous and broadcast to students. We ensured that there was comprehensive access to books and other learning materials, a library anywhere approach. We moved our support for students online, including access to assessment support and other kinds of student support, such as mental health and disability support. Our careers and work experience teams also moved online. And we reached out to all our students, starting with the first years and then working through the student cohort by phone and by email to make sure that they were coping with these extraordinary times, able still to engage with their learning and in a good position to capitalise on that. We developed a University of Roehampton community of practice support our staff to ensure that staff were ready to deal with the challenges of moving to remote learning. Working first with some of our champions who had strong digital skills and were already working with blended learning, we rolled out our experiences and shared experiences amongst the staff community, both those things that went well and those things that didn't go well. We can learn a lot from those. We provide IT training, technology training for our staff, and also engage them in pedagogical development to ensure that we are really at the forefront of what we can offer to our students. And you can see here our Moodle community of learning practice, which is very well used and very well recognised by our staff. Underpinning our move to remote learning and how we will work in the coming academic year is a clear learning design, starting with an investigations phase where we introduce topics to the student, where they're able to access content in text and video and online mode. We then move into the explore phase where students can carry out their core reading, extended reading, explore case studies and other materials that we're offered to them. And then finally moving into the discuss and apply stage where students are engaged actively in online discussions and are able to apply their knowledge, ask questions, and this is a key phase where tutors are engaged, although they support the students right through that learning journey. We've also had a focus on assessment because we've had to change the way we assess without examinations on campus and ensure that all our assessment is accessible to students. We work on the principle that students must be able to do all assessment remotely and it mustn't be dependent on particular technological abilities or resources. Our new assessments, where they are new, still need to fit with the learning outcomes of the module and ensure that they remain fit for purpose. And we've retained our module assessment plans because we feel that in this environment, formative assessment is even more important as we go forward to ensure students are engaged and are able to check where they are with tutors in their learning journey. Going then into the future, how will we look as a university in the autumn when we welcome our students? We are planning to welcome them to the campus. The campus is open, it will remain open, but in a different way. Our lectures will be online, asynchronous, so students can access them whenever they wish to do so, whenever it's convenient and how they want to do that. We are planning face-to-face small group teaching when and where possible, and synchronous online. And that will be online if we are not able to do that face-to-face. The campus is open. It will be open with physical distancing protocols in place, masks, safe routes for travel around the campus, safe accommodation, library and safe social activities. And we must be prepared for future lockdown events in the autumn and winter should they be in place. I'd like to finish by thanking a number of my colleagues at Roehampton who have really driven this work forward. Joe Peat, Stephen Driver, Kate Dodson, Sinisa Andran, and many of our academic colleagues who have explored, developed and contributed to our learning journey at Roehampton. And I'd be very happy to take any questions when it comes to the Q&A session, and thank you very much for listening.
And thank you so much for sharing with us what a caring, innovative, and forward-looking university like yours, and how you have used technology to achieve agility, as well as for your campus, as well for your current and future goals. Now, our third academic speaker is Dr. Lily Chan. So Dr. Chan is the Chief Executive and Vice Chancellor of Wawasan Open University in Penang, Malaysia. Dr. Chan was previously the Chief Executive of the NUS Enterprise at the National University of Singapore for 13 years, and she transformed the university's enterprise division into one of the most admired and most respected higher education entrepreneurial ecosystems in Singapore that has nurtured hundreds of startups and thousands of students' internship placements locally and abroad. And it has been cited by the Straits Times of Singapore that her initiative is probably the single most important development to boost the startup movement in Singapore. Dr. Chan also held multiple top leadership positions in the public and commercial sectors, such as Managing Director of the investment arm of Bio1 Capital Private Limited. She was also the General Manager and Director of Product Development for Gene Labs Diagnostics Private Limited. Dr. Chan, may I now invite you to share your presentation with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. Hope everybody is still awake, I think. All right, let me talk a little bit about where I'm at. And I went from developing a startup community in Singapore and be part of the startup community in Singapore to now managing an institution in Penang. And what did I see in this, and what is it? What is this university and why is it so special? As you can see, it's a beautiful campus. It's a small university. Let me get to the next slide. Okay. It's a private university. The first group of students came in January 2007. So obviously, it's a very new university. The students, this is open distance learning, a bit of online, and I hope people understand the difference between distance and online, because it also took me a while to sort of get our faculty up to it. And we also have full-time on-campus learning, a small percentage of the students using very similar curriculum and syllabus that we use for the distance learning curriculum. The university was set up to provide a gateway to higher education for those who would otherwise be denied access to good education, or were not able to do it. So they could be, they are all working adults mostly. Close to over 24,000 students have actually experienced this learning environment. The university has 4 faculties: a School of Business Administration, a School of Education, Humanities and Social Sciences, School of Science and Technology, and we recently formed a new School of Digital Technology. And you will find that as I go on that this is very, very, it sort of overlaps with what Leslie is saying, and there's a reason why. How do we deliver, and what is the mode of learning and delivery for our university? Materials and content are on our learning management system, like all open universities and distance learning open universities. There is study guides, there is course material, and our course material now is slowly being revamped and being changed into a more interactive format. We call it our WFlex format, but it's actually in the form of flipbooks. The study guides in the flipbooks, you can insert videos, URLs. You can make it very, very interactive, and that's what we've been doing at the university. Because it is remote distance learning, a lot of students would like to have additional support, and therefore there are tutorials every 3 to 4 weeks for the course that they are taking, and the tutorials are optional. For the most part, we've been running the tutorials face-to-face, and obviously with COVID, we had to go online with it, and that essentially wasn't an issue for us. There are other issues which I'll talk about. Assessments is a combination of assignments, quizzes, final exams, and essentially it's all based on self-paced learning. I wanted to touch a little bit on the Malaysian education system. There are essentially 50% of Malaysian students are in the public universities, and another 50% are in private universities. And as you can see, there are a large number of private universities. If you look at the colleges, and if you look at the universities, there are as many as, if you combine this, there are as many as 100 private universities in Malaysia. So the question then is, are there enough students for the private universities? Obviously there is, and in Malaysia, there is the education part of Malaysia. Education is essentially an industry in Malaysia. As you can see here, about 100,000 of the 1.3 million students are international students, and obviously this COVID period has affected many of them. At WOU, Wawasan, we don't have international students. Our students, if they're international, they would have to be domiciled in Malaysia. They're either working or they are partners or spouses of Malaysian citizens. So our numbers are really small. As I indicated, the education is an industry, and there is a large emphasis on TVET and quality TVET graduates. And that, I think, is, as everybody can recognize, a future to equip students with the skills. And as what Leslie earlier has discussed, this is essentially what is quite an important pathway for students. Just this year, the private industry universities have come out with a blueprint, Education as an Industry 2020 to 2025. And this was put together by many, many colleagues in the private industry. And in it, it described how Malaysia can be a front leader in this part of the world with education as industry. And obviously, with the recent COVID situation, everyone's struggling, but I'm pretty sure once this is over, we have all learned and we've all gained from this experience. So how has COVID impacted our university? We're fortunate. We are remote learning. It wasn't an issue. We knew our students would be fine. We immediately had to turn all our tutorials to online, synchronous, in certain cases asynchronous. We still use the same schedules. So in a sense, it did not affect us that much if you think about it operationally. However, we didn't realize that we had to deal with students and staff who did not have access to broadband internet at home, and in many, many places, intermittent connections in many, many locations. So how did these students and staff cope prior to COVID? Many of them use the broadband at work. They would be in coffee shops where broadbands are offered free, or they would come onto campus, small as it may be, and they spend time in the library and they access it. We had to move a lot of desktop computers back home for our staff during that period prior to it, and we started to realize that the infrastructure of a university, of an institution, to cope with this is very, very important. And in essence, we need to be able to figure out ways to level the playing field for both students and staff in a university. And I think a lot of people don't realize that because many of us are talking about it, but we don't realize it until you are faced with it, the situation, and how do we cope with it? With our staff, we had a lot of it. We had to buy cards, we had to buy dongles to provide our staff so that it takes the stress out of them. They can then cope with the students. They can get online with students, and they can get online with other colleagues at work. An important part of post-COVID for our university is really to look at the infrastructure on campus, as well as the infrastructure in the community. The infrastructure, the hardware, the network, the data, the virtual remote access, you spend money, you can get it done. But the community and the locality where you are located will also, you need to work in tandem. You need to convince service providers that they need to penetrate into certain areas where our staff and students live. So that's a different challenge we are facing. Within the university infrastructure, the information structure needs to be there, and all universities will have it in various forms. And for us, is how do we integrate this post-COVID? We have it. We're a 13-year-old university. Essentially, it should be quite seamless to integrate all that, but you don't know until you are faced with the situation. And the third part, one can spend money to buy the infrastructure and set the infrastructure. One can, spend money to put in the best learning management systems. The third part is really the people. If the staff, students are not really with it, that whatever you put in will not work that well. So we found that changing mindsets is quite important. We had certain staff who do not have smartphones and hold certain positions in the university where being offline, we needed them to be online. So the good thing out of all this is in the last 3 months, 2.5 months to 3 months, I think our faculty, our staff, our students are now getting very familiar and they're comfortable with it. I also need to remind our audience that, as I indicated earlier, our students are not from the very well-to-do. So we are servicing a group of, a population of students that are, they could have gone to private universities, put it this way, if they can afford it. But because they needed to work, therefore they came to a university like ours. The university moving forward, it's become very clear, and part of my reason for taking up this position is to relook at how education can be changed and can be transformed. And we realized that 83% of our students are below the age of 40, majority profiles within 25 to 39 years old, and they're worried about how can they secure a job after graduating, and many of them are very familiar with this, the phone. So we need to provide course materials, we need to provide a lot of curriculum that goes with this generation. We need to turn it into skill-centric education. We need to make sure there's a lot more on-the-job workplace training, trainee and internship. Mind you, our students are already working for many of them. So we need to be able to communicate with their employers and see how, as a university, we can work closer with them. The education and occupation, we need to make sure that they can earn and learn so that they can pay their tuition fees. And we need to make sure they can be work ready before graduating, guarantee, and find some way to see if we can guarantee jobs and career placement. And you heard this comment from Leslie, right? So we started a new School of Digital Technology early this year. We are going to introduce a new degree in software engineering and evolve a more contemporary program. We will also introduce a new degree in digital business with core components brought in from current courses plus courses that we will develop with our partner. This is essentially the model that Leslie had earlier articulated. So it's obvious that we are working closely developing these two programs for accreditation in Malaysia. So the first year is a study boot camp. Leslie has gone into it. It's full-time employment in year 2 to 3 or internship appointment in year 2 to 3. And hopefully by year 4, the students can come out. I don't need to go into details because I think Leslie did my talk for me for this part. Blended model consisting of full-time, part-time studies, as I've said. Bootcamp can be integrated into our structure to create the relevant program for first-year students for full-time study. We are fortunate because we have the infrastructure and the structure already put in place. It's all now down to taking it through the accreditation agency to get it provisionally approved so that we can launch it in September or in January, depending on the time frame. With our partner, this is the slide taken off from Lithan. Obviously, we've been working very closely together the last several months. I think we're not able to launch a new program in 90 days as what Leslie would like to have, but you know, it is something that is ongoing and we're quite excited about launching a program like that. In Penang, as you can see, post-COVID, we talk a lot about getting the next phase of remote learning right in higher education, but it should not just be content. It needs to be within, it needs to go into the workplace. So how do we integrate that? There's also talk on the rise of online learning raises questions about price we put on education. Online doesn't mean it is cheaper, and many of you know that. And at the end, you need to be able to provide the assurance, the content, and everything inside your structure and your curriculum that will enable students to want to come to your university. And I took this, and this is my last slide, to build the workforce of the future. This is from the World Economic Forum. We really need to revolutionize how we educate, how we learn, and how we transform certain universities. I'm not going to say all universities because my previous employer was NUS. They are also transforming right now. But in a small university like WOU, I think the opportunities are there. And I think we're very excited. We want to transform it, and we'll make it very, very different in this part of the world. Thank you. I think I'm on time.
Yes, very much. Thank you, Dr. Chan, and thank you for being such a candid in sharing about your university's transformation and leading the way in Malaysia. Thank you very much. So our fourth academic speaker today is Ms. Sandy Damowit-Noto. Sandy is the Vice Rector from the President University of Indonesia. She is a very passionate executive with special interest in quality assurance, online learning, and using technology to accelerate business innovation. As the Vice Rector of the university, Sandy is also a lecturer in the Faculty of Computing, where she teaches web development, programming concepts, and computer networks. Prior to this, she was the Director of Quality Assurance of the President University with extensive software development and system analysis experiences. Sandy graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science from the Coventry University and a Master of Information Technology from James Cook University. Sandy, may I invite you to present to the audience?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Joel.
You're welcome.
Everyone, thank you for your enthusiasm in today's webinar. I see a lot of attendees from Indonesia. Selamat sore. Today, I would like to share about what we've done at President University in the hope to future-proof our graduates and what we plan to do in the near future. A little bit about President University. We are a private higher education institution in Indonesia. We became a full-fledged university in 2004. And at the moment, we have about 4,738 students. And out of which 10% of the students are international students. Our international students came from 18 different countries, with China, Timor-Leste, and Vietnam being the highest numbers. We are located in the heart of Jababeka Industrial Estate in West Java, and we are offering 16 bachelor degree programs and 2 master's degree programs. Now, like I said, I wanted to share about what we do to future-proof our graduates. We are a very industry-focused institution, which means that we build a very good relationship with the industry so that we can get feedback from them about our curricula and about how what kind of skills that the students need. And to solidify it, we have a compulsory internship program for all of our students. And this internship program is 1 semester long. At the moment, in 2019, we have 810 companies. I'm not sure about 2020 because the last data that I had is 2019, and the numbers keeps growing from year to year. And these are the number of companies that take our students as interns. Most of our students are doing their internship in manufacturing. That's about 30% of them. PT Mattel is the Barbie and I forgot what it's called. It's a cars or something. Yeah, there's a car toys, and they hire a lot of our students, followed by Jababeka, Pertamina. These are the major industries that hire our students as interns. So we've been doing pretty good, but we felt that we need to add more to our provision. So in 2016, we encouraged the faculty members to start using blended learning. We are using Schoology for LMS, but now we shifted to Moodle with Big Blue Button, Google Meet, Zoom, and to record lessons, we use iSpring and Camtasia. And the goal is to get the lecturers to apply flipped learning, which means that the students read and review the multimedia materials before they're coming to class. And we optimize the use of our class time by for problem solving and for projects. Now, the big shift in the policy in Indonesia happens with the arrival of our new education minister, which is Mr. Nadiem Makarim. Mr. Nadiem Makarim is the is an entrepreneur, and he is someone who believes in the importance of creativity and innovation. And he launched a new idea. It's called the Campus Merdeka, or called the Independent Campus, where now our students are free to choose his or her learning path for up to 40 credit units or 2 semesters, which means that they can extend their internship to 2 semesters long, or they can choose to study abroad, or they can choose to study in a different study program. Obviously, we are happy about this, and we quickly seized this opportunity to redesign our curricula and to allow more learning pathways for the students. And we believe that this is a good move. This allows our students to personalize their learning journey. And then the inevitable happened, which is COVID-19, and it has forced all higher education institutions to go online. Yep. All schools and all universities have to close down immediately, and everybody now have to work at home and study at home. Yeah. In a sense that we are quite ready. However, it turns out there are some issues. Yeah. There are still some issues. Yeah, going full online in a hurry has caused dissatisfactions, both in the students' part and also in the lecturers' part, and even in the staff, yeah, because of the mismatched expectations, and a lot of lecturers do not prepare their learning materials optimized for online learning. And there are also issues such as unstable internet connection in remote areas. Indonesia is huge. When we told our students to go back to their hometown, you will never know whether their hometown has a good stable internet connections or not. And the lack of face-to-face meetings have changed the whole dynamics. For example, in my class, I have 4 classes, and I plan to give them all quizzes. And I realized that out of the 4 classes, one of the class, none of the students submitted the quiz at all. Yeah. And nobody told me anything. And several days after, I still did not hear anything, and surprisingly, I didn't check as well, until when I look at the score results and I wondered why everybody got zeros and nobody ever did it. Turns out the problem was with me because I didn't set the quiz as feasible. You see, the problem is that in a traditional brick and mortar classroom, this will not happen, but this can happen in online class. And so I was pretty shocked that none of the students asked and emailed me or WhatsApped me and saying why they cannot access the quiz. They just let it go. You know, so these are some of the problems that can happen online when we go full online. Yeah. And this dissatisfaction in many institutions eventually leads to student protest. For example, and if you see in the screen here, is the U Chicago for fair tuition. They demand a 50% tuition cut due to financial hardships, and also they cited that the fact that for them, online class is just not the same as the brick and mortar traditional classroom. So they're very unhappy about it. And from this, we learned that, in fact, designing a good online course is not as easy as moving everything from offline to online. There's a lack of interpersonal communication. Lectures become a bit boring. It's a bit difficult for us to accurately assess the students' performance now. And there are some practicals and lab works that are simply hard to do in online setting. In traditional classroom setting, everyone can see each other. Question and answer can happen anytime. But now, everyone is asked to mute their speakers, just like now, right? Which is a bit eerie, which means that you're talking to yourself. It feels very different. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that it's all gloom and doom about online learning, because as what we know, students do learn online. Students do learn online is just not from their professors. They learn it from somewhere else. And where do they go? They go to YouTube. Students and lecturers love their YouTube tutors. Here is Derek Bennett. Derek Bennett is a very prominent YouTube tutor for programming. He has 1.5 million subscribers. And if you're in the art field, you would know about Ross Draw's channel, which is, this is Ross Tran. He's the tutor. And he also has millions of subscribers. Fans follow him closely. And if you can see, people are writing comments, and people who are writing comments and actively contributing to this channel are also actually university students. So they are learning. Yeah. So because of this, I think it's time for us to rethink about how we design our online classes. The problem is this. From what I see is that professors are not YouTube tutors. Yeah? Their livelihood do not depend on how many subscribers they get or how many thumbs up they get in a single video. No, it's very different from this YouTuber where they are challenged every day to increase the number of subscribers, and they want as much as possible, as many as possible. So also professors have their plates full with other tasks such as research and publications and such. So it's not very fair, it's unfair to expect professors to replicate the skill sets of YouTubers. But we can learn from each other. So in President University, we are in the process of redesigning our online provisions, and we plan to do it in 90 days. Yeah. What we're going to use as a checklist on whether our online provision will be sufficient or whether it will be holistic and effective or not for our students is by using the community of inquiry model as a reference. Yeah. So we build checklists based on this. For example, whether or not the learning environment facilitates student learning facilities. And we also want these lecturers to provide students with timely and supportive feedback. And students are to be given a clear instruction for all the course activities so there's no confusion. And we will also train our lecturers to inject their personalities in their online class. So it has to be, their personality should shine so that the students feel like they're interacting with real human and not just PowerPoint slides and text. Yeah. They should feel that there are real lecturers behind this screen that they can ask questions to, that they can talk to, just like in the offline setting. And lecturers should encourage students to share their thoughts, beliefs, and ideas in the class. And whether or not the online classes provide chances for small group discussions and collaborations between students. And we will also look at the cognitive presence. Yeah, we should look at the course and think of the bigger picture. What skills do you want your students to take away from this? And assessment should be created based on that. And so we're moving away from rote learning and memorization, and we have to change that mindset. And it has to be suitable for online environment as well. We will encourage creativity and innovation even in online setting, and we encourage students to share and contribute what they have learned in their social media and personal homepage. In fact, both students and lecturers should build a solid net presence. So how are we going to do this in 90 days? What we're doing now is that we're looking for talents. We're looking for talents in lecturers and senior students who love online learning, who are passionate about it, and we train them so that they can help the lecturers as course designer. So this course designer team will be placed in a small team with the other lecturers as the subject matter expert. So they will be the one that help the professors to create and design a good course that is engaging and effective. We plan to train and retrain all the lecturers in 10 days time to get everyone on the same page, even if they've already did an online learning training before. And next, we'll build small teams consisting of the professor and also a course designer put in the team as well. Yep. And this small team will work together to build an online course. The goal is that in 90 days, they can build either at least one or two online courses. They will build their online course in the small team, and then they'll be evaluated by getting feedback from senior students and experts to recheck on the quality of the online materials. And if it's okay, then they can get it approved and they can go live. If it's not, then we will reiterate the process again until everybody in the evaluation team give it an approval. So that is our 90-day plan of designing. Now, for higher education institutions who are pressed with time, I think the best solution is, if you really need to get this done quickly, is by engaging with a third-party partner, the one that that has expertise in building online courses. Or also you can check your major textbooks publishers. They often offer multimedia videos and animations that will be able to complement their books. You can use the materials that they provide to quickly build your online classes. Yeah. And we don't know how long this COVID will last in Indonesia. So far, the number is creeping up and up and up. So I think this is something that we really need to think about, and we really need to get this done very quickly in Indonesia, because we don't know whether this is going to be over soon, and hopefully it will be. Even if it's over, and we really need to rethink about the number of students in the class now. If it's too big and too tight, then it's not good enough. Then maybe we can split some to online setting and some to offline settings. Yeah, I think that's all from us, and thank you very much for listening. And thank you, Lithan, for organizing this as well. Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you very much.
With respect to Joel. Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Right. Our final speaker for today is Mr. Bharat Agarwal. Bharat is the president of Vishwakarma University and Vishwakarma Institute Group. He has led the progress of a group into multiple business verticals, such as education, retail, manufacturing, and publishing. The Vishwakarma Group houses 15 educational institutions comprising of engineering, management, marine, science, and value-address programs that has enrollment of 25,000 students and more than 2,200 full-time employees. Under his leadership, the premier flagship institute, the Vishwakarma Institute of Technology, has become the first autonomous engineering institution in the state of Maharashtra. Mr. Bharat is also an executive member of the Maratha Chamber of Commerce, Industries and Agriculture, and he also chairs the Higher Education Committee of the same. Mr. Bharat, the final honor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon from India. I'm sure it is late evening in Singapore and East Asia, so good evening to everyone. It's an honor to be over here. It was an honor to listen to Professor Anil D Sahasrabudhe from AICTE in India. It was an honor to listen and learn from other speakers on this panel. Foremost, let me thank the organizers of this webinar for inviting me to speak, and Mr. Rahul Jain, who is a friend who initiated me as a speaker on this particular panel. I represent Vishwakarma University as the president. We are located in the city of Pune, which is in the western part of India, about 3 hours drive from Mumbai, one of the large cities in India with a population of more than 6 million people. Just to introduce the group, Vishwakarma Group is largely known for its 2 engineering colleges, the Vishwakarma Institute of Technology, the flagship brand, Vishwakarma Institute of Information Technology, VIIT. So both the colleges are NBA and NAC accredited and ranked by NIRF, Government of India. The Vishwakarma University, established 3 years back, has schools of engineering, management, humanities, design, pharmacy, and so on. We have 10 kindergarten to standard 12th schools. We have a graduate college offering commerce, science, and management programs called VCACS. In all, we have around 25,000 full-time on-campus students. We also, as a business group, are diversified into manufacturing, retail, and publishing, and have today 2,200 employees. The teaching in pedagogy at our group for almost the last 3 years has been that we wanted to digitize our operations as much as possible. We got engaged very early with company EduPlus Campus and developed a learning management system called VOLP. We have been deploying the system effectively for the last 3+ years. There was good adaptation from students. There were challenges of adaptation of the same from teachers, I would say, for some time. This COVID movement has, of course, fast forwarded the entire process of adaptation of digitization of education, and all our teachers have moved online. The students were already online. We always had been using flipped classroom and project-based learning as two important tools or methodologies of education of teaching learning. Flipped classroom, as we all have learned before through other speakers also, primarily means the student undergoes theory education at home, and in class he is involved into discussions or problem solving techniques. PBL, project-based learning, there is a problem statement coming from the faculty or from the industry which a student applies using his theory knowledge, his practical knowledge to solve it. Assessments form an important part of the pedagogy. We have been ensuring 360 degrees assessments, which means not only is his knowledge tested, but also his application of knowledge, his personality, his teaching, his speaking skills, his presenting skills, everything is tested in the entire year. We encourage a lot of teamwork. So a lot of credit is given to students when they are doing the particular project in a team, or they are presenting a particular seminar in a team, and so on. And they are also graded for teamwork. There is credits given to students for his personality and character development. So there are courses that the student has to do in campus, and further that are also assessed. And lastly, and more importantly, we have been having innovation-driven courses. So students have to do a project every semester. They have to publish a paper on the project, and they also have to try to file patents and other intellectual property around it in some form or the other. Well, the Government of India, Professor Anil leads important council toward AICTE. Other than that, there are other central councils. The state governments, like we are in the state of Maharashtra, also have its own regulations, institutes for colleges. For largely, higher education system is in 3 buckets. The first bucket is of affiliated colleges, which are affiliated to a central government university or a state government university. Then there are autonomous colleges which have the authority to design, develop curriculum, content, but still they are affiliated to a government university. And then there are private universities and government universities. The government generally regulates the intake of students, the admissions, and fee structure for the affiliated and autonomous colleges. The private universities have enough authority to be innovative in course design and pedagogy. Of course, the Government of India has been largely promoting blended learning for a long time now, and have been also promoting institutes, universities to take industry participation in their operations. Well, the impact of COVID, I mentioned a few minutes back that we have been largely implementing, or I would say deploying digitization of our teaching learning for the last 3 years. So when COVID hit and hit us in Pune, the first in India, we went under lockdown maybe in the mid of March. We had a seamless and a quick transition to online education. It was synchronous, as was mentioned by one of the early speakers. Most of the teachers, I would say almost all teachers, with a gap of 4-5 days, went online using the VOLP system, using Zoom and Google Meets and other online conferencing tools, and transitioned the teaching learning into an online mode. Both students and students and teachers, there were positive response to this. All the theory classes happened online. Assessments happened online, and not only the assessments happened through multiple choice questions or through some simple other assessment patterns, but there was also group work which was assessed. We also were able to engage parents very effectively during the COVID situation, because parents were also home, and so it was very effective to use the same platform of ULP as well as Zoom to communicate with the parents, engage with them, take feedback, give them updates about our progress and our activities and initiatives. We also arranged a lot of talks from industry experts to our students and to our teachers effectively during the last 1.5 months. Post-pandemic, we do hope and pray that we come out of the situation at the earliest. We are allowed to open. Safety and health remains a top priority now. So we do understand that at least for some time, maybe 6 months, maybe a year, we would have to employ a lot of practices in the campus which are more health and safety oriented and might result in a low attendance on campus, because distancing and hygiene has to be maintained as a top priority. We believe theory has to be continued to be taught online. Lab work, remedial teaching will happen on campus. In this sense, the student may visit a classroom only 1 or 2 days in a week. The remainder 3-4 days he is on his hostel room, his dormitory room, or his home, from wherein he will be engaged in theory classes. Collaboration tools, we believe so far the LMS has served the good purpose of at least the classrooms being formed, the lectures being held, the assignments being delivered, and assessments being held. But we believe further a lot of collaboration tools have to be built in the LMS. We cannot replicate the fun of campus at home. I'm sure none of us can do that, because campus life is about education, is about growth, is about learning, but it also is not about fun. It is about camaraderie with your fellow students. It is about building a relationship with your teachers. All these things will be missed. What we can at most do is to build some tools in the LMS so that we at least have some experiences of collaboration otherwise. We also believe that assessments have to be spread and have to be innovative. By spread, I mean in the early systems, we generally had assessments or end semester exam as an event. And like this year, the event was in March. For us in engineering education, the event was in May, and we were in lockdown during these phases. So almost the entire end semester examinations were wiped out. We believe further going, we would have to spread our assessments, and we also have to innovate our assessments so that we comprehensively are able to assess students. More and more projects have to be delivered, have to be around digitization, because that would be the need of the industry outside, of consultancy firms, of manufacturing firms, of service firms. We also foresee a lot of e-internships to be given to students. So physical internships are of course more fruitful, but then going forward, e-internships is something that we foresee to pick up. The focus remains on blended learning. The focus, of course, now also moves towards association with industries for setting up centers of excellence. Like us, all the industries are going through a disruption. Many manufacturing units are working with less workforce. They want to digitize their operations quicker than ever. Various service models of various companies is undergoing disruption. The entire travel industry is going under disruption. The experience industry, I would say, is going under disruption. So all these industries, all these companies would require some innovation and some new ideas to come up. It is good time for them to partner with universities like us, set up centers of excellence, and do collective or collaborative research and innovations around their practices and operations. Executive education is a push because some of the employees may lose jobs. Projects and innovation is something that has to be boosted now. And we have to further enhance adaptation of the online mode of teaching and learning, and improvisations have to be carried on around that. The objective of all of us is success of our students. I'd like to quickly wrap up because I've just run out of time. The success of students is something that is our common ground through live projects from the industry. It's, I think, easier now ever than before because they themselves are innovating a lot. Technical competency of the students have to be enhanced. Innovative projects have to be driven. We have to also teach and enable our students to work remotely and do teamwork remotely. Understanding stress levels, understanding loneliness, understanding challenges of working from home or remote working. We might have to increase inclination towards arts, which means introduce music and other fine arts in our curriculum. This might just fill the boredom that is created because of remote working. We have to also pay attention towards mental health through meditation and yoga inbuilt in our curriculum. Physical health is a big challenge because locked in an apartment, not allowed to move around too much, sports being curtailed. we have to again improvise, and we have to think of ways in which we can keep ourselves and our students physically fit. Last, international associations is something that we have to foster, because student movement internationally will also be challenged. I am sure through online collaborative tools, through the learning management systems and Zooms of the world, we can enhance faculty exchanges and e-internships for students. I'd like to end over here. Thank you so much. I once again am grateful to the organizers for inviting me to this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bharat. We are now open to the Q&A session, and we have received overwhelming response. So we will not be able to address all the questions in this session. So what we'll do is that we'll try to answer as much as we can, and those that we can't, we will follow up with you through an email after the webinar.
Joel?
Yes.
Yeah, just a short interruption. I would just like to take a few minutes to thank Professor Anil for staying with us throughout until this time. Somebody where you are, I'm sure you're very busy, and I really appreciate you staying throughout. And also, not just today, but also the other day, you were staying throughout my talk, and really appreciate it. I do have a question before I let you go. So this may I ask the question, Professor Anil?
Absolutely, you can ask.
Yes. Okay. So, okay, the transformation involved, in fact, two sort of parallel track interrelated, and one part of it clearly is not a choice, and we all have to do that. All the academia coming out, they have done that before, or they are doing it now. It's about changing the mode of learning, which is really from offline to blended, essentially. That's one part of it. The second part is really about applied learning. The applied learning is beyond just pedagogy changes, right? Integrating work into the journey, but really is also about the needs to set up that ecosystem to support applied learning, such as bringing employer into the hiring process. So over the last month or so, while I'm interacting with the India University, one of the present surprise that I'm getting is that, in fact, regulation, they are not as much constraint put on the university what they can do, because a lot of they are awarded certain status, and they have to, of course, certain guideline in terms of how they would do their learning. And therefore, I think for India to actually move forward and to transform to a more flexible type of learning would probably be less constrained to do so compared to, including Singapore, I think. Yeah. So my question is that on applied learning, can you enlighten us with some direction in terms of, are you going that direction? Because when I read the paper, I read something about competency learning recently that been part of what been moved to the market. Appreciate you can share some direction on that for India.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leslie. There are a couple of things which I would like to mention, which I had not talked during my talk. You know, there was limited time available. So let me start with the experiential learning part of it. Students have been made mandatorily to undertake internship of minimum 6 months time in an engineering curriculum of 4 years, and similarly about 3 months for a postgraduate program, whether it is in engineering or management. So this has been made mandatory. So naturally, every institution is required to sign MOUs with at least 5 industries in the neighborhood wherever they want, and then find opportunities. But still, in the tier 2, tier 3 smaller places, they had challenges in engagement with industry. So we have created an internship portal, a massive portal. There are more than a million opportunities for internships made available through the AICTE developed portal. And not only that, the Honorable Finance Minister this time announced that there will be budgetary provision for giving stipends to students during internship. And therefore, many ministries are coming forward to have engagement with the AICTE providing this. There are about 100 odd smart cities, for example. Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs has come forward and said from local administration to smart cities, there will be hundreds of opportunities at every small district level. And all of them would be available for students in terms of getting first-hand practical exposure. Similarly, the Ministry of Road Transport, one who takes care of highways, they have come forward for giving that, internship opportunities. Ministry of Small and Medium Scale Industry. I think I can go on. So the one part is students get ample opportunity to undertake experiential learning through an industry interaction. The second one, more interesting, I would like to deal with is, probably I don't know whether in Singapore that system exists. I have not heard of it in anywhere in the world probably. Is that any faculty member, when he is in the earlier years, when he is young and joins the profession of teaching, we have made 8-module teacher certification program mandatory in technical education. So what it means is a teacher, when he enters the profession of teaching, he has to go through that 8 modules to become a regular faculty. Otherwise, he will not have permanency in his job. He will have to be, if he does not do it within 3 or 4 years, he will have to quit the job. He is not successful as a teacher, actually. So in these 8 modules, some of the things which are very interesting are exactly linked with what we are all talking about today. First thing is passion about teaching. See, that passion is most important. How do you develop that? You start from there, passion about engineering itself, and then subsequently as you go along, whether it is use of ICT, that is technology, whether it is MOOCs platforms, learning management systems, how do you use them effectively in order to have a very good contact with the students? That is another module. Curriculum revision is another module. Examination reforms is another module. Everyone has to learn about examination reforms because the rote learning has to be moved away, and then we want our students to have all the knowledge in terms of understanding, application, the innovation, all of that has to come in. So I think that is also another matter. The faculty to involve in this is also important, so that also is going to be part of that. Then you have innovation is an important item actually, that they have to go through innovation as well. And how one can really transform and keep changing as per the requirements and also values, ethics. So I think these are 8 modules, including university administration. See, you need to rise in the hierarchy. You will become someday head of the department, dean, divisional chairman, vice chancellor, director, whatever. So that training is also given right from inception. So I think these are some of the very important things. And this is not enough. Having gone through this, every faculty member has to go to industry for 4 weeks for internship. Students are going anyway, but faculty also has to go, and they have to understand the nuances of latest things happening in the industry and bring it back to the academic institution. And all that they have learned in 8 modules and the industry have to practice in the college. When a senior faculty will monitor them and then give a satisfactory or unsatisfactory remark based on which they will get regularized. And this is not enough. For them to promote to higher level, that is from assistant professor to associate professor, or from associate to a full professor, again we have several other modules and industry internship mandatory intermittently as well. I think this is where problem of the industry and the society will be brought to the classroom while teaching every subject. And then the use of ICT, the technology, whether it is internet-based or whether it is MOOC-based, how do you engage students in the blended learning, in flipped classrooms? This is also being part of the training program, and without that, they will not progress in their profession at all. I think we have to change.
All right. Yeah, I think appreciate it. Thank you. Clearly, I think this is quite unique. I didn't think that faculty elsewhere have to go through that type of technical grounding. And I come from the school that I think 6 years old should learn how to code. And I think that coding is actually part of core skill required for every individual, because it's not about really the technical piece, it's really about the problem solving, the way you think if you are a coder. So really appreciate that. I think that insight into actually the development of the education system, actually starting from getting the lecturer actually being able to do experiential learning, delivery that effectively. Thank you.
Thanks. Awesome.
Actually, I have a follow-up question. Sorry, Joel. In fact, I want to ask Claire on this. Similar line of thought, similar line. Applied learning clearly is getting popular in Asia, and there are countries that are moving toward that. But they've been actually not much success. China, for example, actually 5 years ago, we heard about this university need to be transformed to become applied science university in China, because but really 3 years, 4 years later on, we still hear about this initiative. Clearly, I think they are having issue, because fundamental to applied learning is actually your curriculum, right? It needs to be really competency-based, it needs to be skill-based as a foundation. So, but for UK, right, I haven't been closely in touch, but I started to see a lot more programs that actually include internship as mandatory component, a big component. So I thought maybe Claire can shed some light on applied learning in UK.
Thank you, Leslie. I'd be very happy to do that. There are several strands, I think, to the development of applied learning in the UK, one of which is the embedding of what we describe as employability skills in the curriculum, whatever the subject, from English literature, drama, history, through to biomedical sciences, business and computing and technology, so that our students are employer-ready, business-ready when they leave the university. And that involves internships, work experience. Some of those are quite short periods of work experience, some of them are longer. For example, at Roehampton, our undergraduate business programs now offer a 1-year internship between the 2nd and 3rd year. And we offer that now at master's level as well, with a 2-year master's. But much of it is also really embedded in the more general curriculum, and we've looked at how we design, for example, our assessments to ensure that they are useful to students in the world of work. So they may design pitches to clients, or they may write pieces for commercial radio, or they may do assessments that help them to set out their skills for employers when they leave the university. So there's an element of embedding within the curriculum, and of engaging both locally and nationally with business and other organisations to enable students to gain experience while they're studying, although certainly at Roehampton many of our students are working in any case alongside their study. And that means that we know that enhances their opportunities in employment when they leave the university. I think the second thing is that the government has an agenda to develop the apprenticeship offer much more broadly. So currently this work-based vocational learning is very prevalent up to the age of 16 and 18, and has been expanded into the higher education area, so that we have a number of degree apprenticeships and higher apprenticeships where students can learn in work. They have 1 day, a requirement for 20%, 1 day a week equivalent, 20% of their time off the job in terms of more classroom-based or online learning, but they are mainly working in the workplace. And those are then funded by a levy, a tax which is placed on employers. and so that is also a way of ensuring that employers are upskilling their workforce, and students have the opportunity not only to gain the practical applied skills, but also an academic award alongside of that.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you. Joel, you want to take over from there?
Sure, definitely. We have a couple of questions from the audience. So let me just go to Dr. Lily Chan first. Dr. Chan, the question from the audience is, please share with us your challenges working with the authorities in getting funding and approval for the blended program, the one that you mentioned, 3 years of working. All right, so the audience want to know, how do you get this approved through the authorities, and how do you actually overcome it?
Okay, just to be clear, we are an ODL, meaning a Open Distance Learning University. So our license allows us to do that. So to be fair, this was all done before my time, and a lot of this was, we have currently about 60 programs that are accredited in our university. And all these were done over the last 13 years. Obviously, we have a QA team that handles all this. And because the university license is different, it's not a face-to-face intensive license. So there was a lot, there was flexibility within the constraints of Malaysia's various program structures that are allowed. So the exams and assignments, for instance, we can provide assessments via assignments, via online quizzes, and obviously you do need a final exam, and the flexibility is a certain percentage of your final exam weightage on the course. So in a sense, the flexibility is there because of the license that we hold. One of the challenges, if today you go on to apply for this, if the university wants to go fully on an online system, you would need to apply for a university license in Malaysia. All the 400 colleges and universities in the private sector in Malaysia, all of them have to go through this process of getting a license to operate in Malaysia. Like every accreditation, it is a process, right? But if you know how to fulfill all the relevant criteria, you can get through pretty quickly. It's not as difficult as it sounds, because we have gone through it, so it isn't. In the new program that we are doing, we are in the process of submitting. One cannot recruit students until you get accreditation, a provisional accreditation. So we have to go through that process before we can launch our program.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Chan.
Yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, you can write to me directly.
Okay.
Yeah, Joelle will be able to provide you my email, and you can write to me directly. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, the next question actually is addressed to Professor Anil. So, Professor, the question is, India is one of the biggest exporters for software talent to date. So what is your vision to continue to drive that momentum? That's part one of the question.
What is that? Drive them?
Continue to drive this momentum to be one of the software talent platform, talent exporters in the world. So that's part one of the question. Part two of the question is about digital business and marketing talent. Do you have any plan? What is the vision in seeing that that is an emerging market as well? How would that play out in the marketplace and your position for India?
I think both are in some way connected. In fact, the lead which India took in terms of IT revolution, thanks to many companies who cropped up, whether it is Tata Consultancy Services, Infosys, Wipro, Cognizant, I can roll out. Each one of them is $1 billion industry, and they all started in the late 80s and 90s. And today, the routine software writing is not good enough. So we must have embedment of whether it is AI, IoT, machine learning into the programming skill sets as well, and only then they can succeed. And that's why many of these organizations where people were writing codes based on the old era are no more required, and therefore unless they continue to have reskilling. So one is upskilling, and reskilling is also very, very important, and that is a big drive which IT industry is already doing. And any new person who is welcomed into the organization from the colleges, they are already trained in that. I think therefore the edge which India had will continue to be there in the new normal as well. As far as the digital marketing is concerned, there are many specializations where digital marketing is there. Plus, most importantly, data analytics is also important. In many management schools today, we have data analytics as one of the specializations. And this is significant because to drive the market, a lot of information is required to be filtered. Then you understand that in the nuances, how the customer is behaving, and using data analytics, digital marketing can be successful. So it is the marriage between new technologies and the routine marketing strategies. Both have to work together. And some management schools have started adopting this. I'm sure many more will start adopting it later.
Thank you. Thank you. The next question actually is directed to Mr. Bara. So also two parts of the question. Because you have shown tremendous success in actually spearheading multiple businesses and faculties, at the same time also very innovative in terms of building faculties and disciplines. So the question to you is that with the current pandemic situation, do you have a plan to actually provide financial scheme for students who are actually will be even in an even bigger financial difficulties post-pandemic? That's one part. So basically, how do you continue to actually allow students in your schools, in the institutions, to actually afford the fee? That's one part. Another part is that what is the plan in terms of gearing up also in digital business faculty?
Right. Thank you so much. The first part of the question is that, as I understand, what are the financial schemes that we might have so that students can afford to continue their education in spite of them facing a lot of challenges around money? Well, we all are in this challenging position right now where we have to balance our priorities. We have to restate our priorities. Because we all have got into a mode where we are only living with the essentials and living for essentials. A lot of luxuries has been cut down. As we believe education is still a priority and is a necessity, investing in yourself is the best investment that you can do in today in today's scenario. But empathizing with parents and in general with all the students, we have decided that we will not be enforcing any end date for a student to pay up the tuition fees. See, we are a private university, and for a private university, tuition fees is the only source of funding for the entire college system, for the entire university system. So it's through tuition fees as the income that the expenditure towards salaries and to other infrastructure is met. We want to engage in delivering high quality education, for which we have to keep on innovating and improving our teachers and experimenting with a few new modes of teaching learning pedagogies and also collaborations with industries and other universities. Thus, tuition fees becomes very important to us. But we have done away with the deadline that a student has to pay up before a particular date. Only then he can be enrolled to a semester. So registration has been delinked with his ability or his payment of fees. Second, we are getting in touch with every student about when is it possible for him likely to make a payment for fees, and we are not being aggressive at all with the collections. One, I would say, different mode has emerged. It was not an innovation from our side, but it has just emerged. Very recently, about 2 months back, when this first time COVID hit and we had our alumni meet online, we just made an appeal to all the alumni that this is the time when the institute would need collaborations with alumni more than ever and contributions from alumni more than ever. We do understand alumni being alumni, they would like to go back to the alma mater. The institute does not need money to build its buildings. It already has done that. what it needs money is to fund these students. I'm very happy to announce that a lot of alumni has now come forward. They have formed association, and now one of the important priority objectives of the association is to fund student fees. Of course, there would be a screening process for students to undergo the selection under this scheme from alumni. I'm sure many financially distressed students will find help from contributions from the alumni, as well as we will be empathizing with them, and we will not be forcing them to pay up on time. We would be just holding their hand toward in this journey. About digital business, I think so. Every business is now digital business. We all have been teaching courses digitally. We have been engaging in the business digitally. So digital business is very much part of our content curriculum. There have been now innovations where you have started even teaching dance and music digitally and online through Zoom. I am sure we have a faculty of music where we have students learning Hindustani, which is Indian music, as well as music from Western music, I would say, as a course content. We have been experimenting with teaching music online, and it has also given us some learnings and also some success. I'm sure the way forward is digitized business. We are investing in creating good content and thus good students who can take ahead this flag of digital business in future years. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Bharat. Next question is to Ms. Sandy. Okay, so the question is, like you said, top universities in the world are now pressured to reduce tuition fees significantly. In fact, many are already going into debt, like even Harvard University is going to debt. So what do you think is the advantage for university in this part of the region? And what do you think they should do right now?
Okay, thank you for the question. I would say this is a very tough time for higher education institutions, especially in Indonesia, where there's no student loan, there's no well-established student loan systems. And so every student who going to university will have to fund them by themselves or by their parents. I think we can reduce the cost of education significantly by with online classes. Yeah, but of course we have, like I previously mentioned, we need to be careful about the provision because if we are too massive, it will be like MOOCs where there will be low level of completion. This is also something that Leslie mentioned as well. So we need to be, we need to recreate our online courses so that it's more balanced. So the students who go for online classes will still be able to complete the course without having to pay a very high tuition fee. And also the earn and learn model is actually very good. So students can work part-time or work full-time and study part-time. Yeah, so that we can give them this option as well, so that they will be able to fund their study in a much easier way. And we need to pay attention to the adult learners as well. This is a very growing market, and these adult learners are people who are working full-time and or housewives who have their hands full actually, but they would still love to take a university degree or study for master's degree. And I think this is also another opportunity for us to brace the current crisis. I hope that would answer it.
Yes, I believe so.
Yep.
So, thank you.
Yep.
There's another question, but I believe this question is more open to the entire panel. It doesn't direct to any specific person. So the question is, with COVID-driven disruption in the current situation, do you think international collaborative degree, and this is where Professor Claire can come in as well, do you think international collaborative degree can emerge and it will benefit all the stakeholders, creating a win-win solution for everybody?
Definitely. I think that would be good. That's a great idea.
I also agree. Yeah, this is Lily. I also agree. And I think universities like ours have gone through this distance learning concept and understand how the pedagogy of how to put curriculum and courses together and all that. We're happy to collaborate.
And this is Claire speaking. Yes, I think I also agree, and I think that those kind of collaborations not only benefit the institutions in terms of shared experience, but also the students, because they have opportunities to share their experience of work and study with one another across continents, and that's a huge benefit in terms of developing their skills and their networks for the students.
That brings in another question, actually specifically targeting...
Joel, I would like to just pitch in here. Sure. I have to go off now for some other meeting. This question was very interesting, and I would like to state that already many universities do have collaboration MOUs whereby students exchange take place for 1 semester, 1 year, and so on, and transfer of credits do take place. So what right now University Grants Commission and MHRD has set up a committee to evaluate a possibility of having what is known as credit banking. Like our bank accounts, why not have every student credit account where he may do courses from any source, any university, and goes on accumulating the credits. And as soon as he completes the number of credits required for the award of a degree may be probably allotted. So I think it's a very innovative idea, but I don't know how credit definition will have to be uniform across the board. People have to agree to respect the courses of another university. I think so many things are going to happen. So I think it is a very innovative idea being pitched here, and some meetings have already been held in India.
Thank you very much. That's an interesting idea as well. So this question actually leads to another question that's actually targeting at Professor Claire. That is, you mentioned a lot about inclusivity as well as remote in your presentation. So do you have a plan to actually include Asia into your global vision? So it ties in very well with talking about this collaboration degree is emerging. And so what is the plan to stay competitive and your arrangement with anyone in Asia?
So thank you for that question. I think there are many ways which we can collaborate with colleagues and partner institutions in Asia, both in terms of the more traditional franchise and validation arrangements, but also in creating joint programs where students from across the world can benefit from the expertise and bring that to their future careers. So certainly Roehampton itself, located in London, but reaching out to the world, really is looking forward to opportunities to collaborate with institutions where we can both bring something new and something different to the table, and create some innovative ways of working in partnership.
So the speakers have agreed that collaborative degree is the way to go. So the next question pertaining to that is that how do we then convince our administrators, our university administrator, that this is the right way to go? And this is a structured program that will definitely benefit our students. Any advice from the speakers?
Iya masih. Tinggal aja.
Hello. Hi. So
sorry, I was suddenly there's a guest. I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
Sure. This question is open to all the speakers. So everybody agrees about collaborative degree is the way to go, and also this credit banking interchangeable programs is the right way that will benefit the students. But how do we then convince the university administrator that this kind of structure is the right way that will help the students?
Okay, I personally think that it's going to be tough, but because every university will have their own uniqueness and strength, and they will insist that probably this particular subject is really not the same with the others. But I think we need to remind them that our students would probably benefit a lot from this collaborative degree, because they will be able to see a different perspective, and they'll be able to go to an overseas university and much easier, less dramatic in terms of the credit transfers issues. So I would say that to convince them, we'll take them to, we need to really tell them the benefits and why we're doing this and why they should participate in it. And it's not going to be easy.
Any other speakers?
Leslie here, I'll jump in just for a while. So one of the strategy, right, to create this regional learning and talent platform, which would include many of the universities in the region, perhaps even around the world, that we can collaboratively provide that learning journey that enable them to be structuring across different geography. So that was one of the reason that we are trying to pull together different partners, not just local Asian partner, but also international partner, that who would be able to come together and have certain standard in terms of the way that we learn as well as the way that we deliver, and the goal, if we all agree that at the end of the day is to deliver a work already graduate, is to deliver skills, then I think collectively we could actually have this interchangeably of credential or joint credentials that enable the learner to not just get that credential, but also the experience, a consistent experience that allow them to be a global ready talent.
I'd like to add in a bit. I just had the idea. We were talking about the ASEAN Economic Community this several years. I think if we want to convince the administrator, we can use that as a way to convince them that now the ASEAN, the Southeast Asian nations, have to move together, and we have to become a solid economy. Yeah. And this is the right time for them to do that, and therefore we need to synergize. Yeah. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a very big and bold initiative. That's good to hear. So this coming back, just of time constraint, I will just ask one last question, and this question is actually targeting at Leslie. So the question is that how does Lithan work with universities or departments, and what are the requirements as well as the procedure to enter into an agreement based on the business model that you have shared?
Okay, so essentially, I think we have certain strength. We have invested significantly in certain curriculum, and we have curated as well certain delivery capability, which include industry practitioner, mentor. And what we hope to do is to be able to combine with the local reach within each of these country, and therefore able to put up this offering to the market quickly. So we said that we could do that in 90 days, essentially because the content, the delivery, we could provide that. And the university, that's why depending on different countries, some country like Malaysia as an example, that courses would need to be accredited, would need to be by the local regulatory body. But there are many countries that don't need that, like Indonesia, like India. So these are countries that effectively the decision really rests with the university. If the university felt that this is what they want to do and they want to offer that in September, it could be done almost immediately. So we will go into revenue split arrangement on that basis to start the relationship. So that's why we are having this webinar. Therefore, enter into discussion in terms of how we can actually collaborate. So, so we certainly want to also make sure that the local institution share the same view from us, because our view is very clear, because we are not just out there providing training, we are actually providing, we have an ecosystem that delivers that job as well to the learner. And so the curriculum, the delivery, and the job placement ability, which will be offered by Singapore company who are going to offshore their talent overseas in these 10 countries. And with that, I think the applied learning pathway and the heavy lifting, so-called, is sort of done. It's really about bringing this to the audience in the country. And we want to make sure that the university that we can work with share their view in terms of bringing that outcome to the learner. More importantly, the credential and the trust that the institution have would allow us to support the customer journey to that objective.
All right, thank you, and thank you for the panel for the Q&A session. Leslie, can I hand over ending to you?
Yes, thank you, Joel. This session I couldn't have thought that it's possible 3 months ago, right? We spent like 2.5 weeks to in fact have about 400-500 people attending the class, and it took me 3 days to pull together the panel that are involved. And really thank you for coming on in short notice, Professor Anil, Sandy, Claire, Lily, Bharat, Giri, and John, Yan, for coming on board and spending a few hours with us, and really appreciate that. In order to go to market in 2 weeks, certainly we can't do it on our own. We work with partner. For example, ASMA, we couldn't have done it without ASMA. ASMA is our partner agency that worked with us to outreach to university in India. In fact, the half of the attendee, I assume, would actually come from India. So, so thank you very much, Rahul. Rahul is an old friend. In fact, we used to work together many years back. We kept in touch, and 2-3 weeks ago, and he's received a WhatsApp for me, and I said, can we get this done in a couple of weeks? So I'm really glad that he played a big part in actually bringing the audience on board in such short notice. I think Indonesia as well. I think we have quite a few attendees from Indonesia. So really appreciate the partner that who bring us the audience as well. So our email is all there. I mean, if there's anything, and we'll reach out to you. If you have something more specific, put in an email. We'll get in touch with you.
We can move to the next slide, Leslie. Slide 2.
Okay. So we are in all this country, right? Almost every country in Southeast Asia, plus in Indian subcontinent, we are present in Sri Lanka as well as India. And these are our country manager that you can get in touch with to know more. Perhaps if you're interested in collaboration, happy to certainly talk to you more. Sure. Okay. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time with us.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for panelists. Thank you, organizers.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Leslie. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks, audience.